We will never know.
Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we have Infp Males, and I'll let them introduce themselves. And so Christian, would you like to tell us a bit about you?
Hi, I'm Christian. I'm an INFP SP4, 4-wing 5. I live in Southern California, and I do research on the African diaspora, the transatlantic world, and the Spanish Empire.
Excellent. And not Paul, aka Matt.
I'm not Paul. I'm Matt. I'm from New York. I'm a technical writer. I roast my own coffee, and I'm starting to get into chocolate.
Excellent. And not Matt, aka Paul.
That is, both of those are true statements. I am unfortunately not Matt. I didn't get to choose that. Thank God. I am a ESTJ 8-wing 4, and I am decidedly a non-douchey personal trainer in the Toronto area. I do type coaching, I do personal training, and I'm gonna try to refrain from making incessant dad jokes. So I'm actually gonna write them all down so I don't say them out loud.
No, don't worry, I'll do that for you.
Sherman, I set you up.
Yeah.
Make all the dad jokes that you want. And
no, because it'll never
Sherman?
stop.
I'm Matt Sherman, INFP 9-wing 1. I don't know what to say. I'm kind of still just waking up. My brain's a little foggy, but yeah, it's nice being here. Geek psychology, and I'm looking forward to some dad jokes. Even though you wrote them down, I want to hear them.
I want to hear them too.
Bring them.
The past, the present, and the future walked into a bar. It was tense.
Gonna write that one down.
And Samuel?
Yeah, hi, I'm Samuel. I'm an INFP. I run the best MBTI webcomic out there called MBTimes. I also run the YouTube channel and all of that. And yeah, I'm also a 4 with 5 and all that jazz.
Cool. And Paul?
Hi, everyone.
I already went, but thanks.
I'm Paul. I'm an INFP, 9-wing 1, just like Matt Sherman. And let's see, what else about me? I am based in Vancouver, BC, Canada, as opposed to Vancouver, Washington. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here amongst such esteemed colleagues and typology geeks. So, cheers to you people.
Amen.
Yeah.
I am also not an alcoholic, despite all evidence to the contrary.
And Leon.
Yes. I'm gonna fangirl so hard with Matt and Leon here. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry in advance.
I'd say like your voices are really thunderous over online. You know, and in person, I think I'll be like, I don't know. It's because my headphones are over my ears, so it's like it feels like really thunderous. But I appreciate the thunderous welcome.
True. And like INFPs tend to be HSPs too, so it can feel like thunder. Yeah. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Just kidding.
It has to do with the really weak extrovert sensing. So it's like, oh my god, it's like this forceful noise.
Yeah, I cannot. I get like so incredibly drained after being in New York for like a couple days because I'm so overly stimulated. Like in Manhattan, I could never live there.
I love it. I don't know why. There's something about I can just disappear. I can just do my own thing. I'm in. There's 8.5 million people around me doing their own thing. Nobody cares. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's great, but it's not. It's like with the, like I said, the noises, the smells, all of that. It's just too much. Oh my goodness, so many people.
Wow.
Hey.
Yeah.
And
And
so
so-
all our balls are here.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
There's
I
more
learned
of us.
today
Our boys.
there's a lot of INFPs called Matt and Paul for some reason. I have no idea why. Yeah,
Oh,
and so
we have to tell you, our original names are all Matt. Right? Everyone's Matt here. Right?
Yeah, and the Pauls decided they wanted a different name. They went with Paul, but we knew there was only 2 options.
But then, see, the
And
special
Paul.
ones decided we didn't want to be part of either side, so we chose other unique names.
Yeah, and now we know that, of course, the commenters are going to try to tell us we're not INFPs. I think at this point, Christian and Samuel will be the ones in doubt today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
We
haven't
decided
gotten
in
roasted yet.
we decided in the INFP summit.
There should be an MBTI
You were there too?
summit.
Oh my god! I think I was on the table next to you.
Yeah, there we go. Yes. Anybody who does not agree with the names are executed.
Ooh.
FI lethality.
You shall be thrown into the volcano.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Or oh gosh, what's the trying to think of like medieval tortures. Those are fun.
Throw them
rack?
into the Iron Maidens.
Yes, the rack. Or another fun one. So you get your arms and your legs are tied to horses, and then the horses pull.
Drawn and quartered. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is not a pleasant one.
Yeah, I don't even like horses.
No, I love horses.
I mean,
or
the smell.
There's another fun one where you get like your hands are tied behind a pole, like, and then like, and you're lifted up, and then the bottom there's like a spike, a pole like fashioned into a spike, and you have to like hold yourself up, and and then eventually
Just
get
as
tired and
long
then
as it's
impaled.
Just as long as it's
Through
not
your-
the Viking
through your
spread
rectum.
eagle or blood eagle. As long as
Anyways,
it's not the
sorry.
Viking blood eagle, we're fine.
Anyways, enough of that.
Just some light torture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Inquisition, but for
Torture,
INFPs,
torture.
right?
Yeah. You know, the graphic
Tell me
violence
about
INFPs
yourself.
are known for.
You're really a FE user. Repent.
We're not edgy
Not
enough.
even a
Everybody run.
Joyce, you literally asked for this. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I'm like,
Wait, what are the
what do I
questions?
do
You
with
invited
this?
us more than once.
Does
Yeah.
anybody have questions? I'm
As if
confused.
chaos wasn't going to happen.
I have questions, but that's a whole other thing.
Christian, why?
This is Josh from the
Hate me for
INFP
what? What did I do?
He's
I'm-
probably
It's the
joking about
torture
something.
stuff.
He'll
I bet
explain.
it's all the torture stuff.
Samuel, I'm just like I just decided to pull up your webcomic just now. It's the first
Yeah.
time looking at it. It's beautiful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
I need someone to. You have like a comic of girls
graphic.
swooping
I'm
on
sorry.
down.
I'm sorry, Josh.
I missed that because somebody was talking over you.
Oh, I just saw. I was looking at your comic.
Kevin, are you
now.
an INFP or what's your type? Sorry, I'm chatting.
I just want to talk about the comic. So this
Yeah.
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
thing right here.
That's ENT.
Promotion.
I don't know what the letters are for, though.
I need this to happen to me.
Yes.
Yeah, I need that to happen to me.
We
Yeah.
are
That's why,
sexy.
see, I even got the sticker for it. That's what my desire this. I got
Okay.
the poster for it.
Nice to see the sexy INFP. Okay, great. Okay, so
You do not understand how much I would love. Yeah, anyways,
Matt Sherman,
Yeah,
I have a
you-
question. Since nobody's asking questions in the chat, do you have a favorite, like, since you apply like gaming and stuff to like typology, do you have like a favorite like fantasy book series, or do you like, what fantasy book series do you like? Because I'm really big into sci-fi fantasy.
Honestly, man, I have spent so much time away from like the creativity well for so long. I've realized that I've kind of gotten to that point where like I need to refill. I need to start doing more
You need to
reading books, watching movies, things like that.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I've noticed, like, looking back, a couple of years, I can see like I'm just like running dry with the creativity because I'm not fueling it back up. I'm not, giving
Dude,
it.
everybody says
Everybody thinks I look like Seth Rogen.
You
I used
do.
to look like Justin Timberlake when I was younger. Now I look like Seth Rogen.
Matt, I'm sorry.
It's a thing.
I interrupted you.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, unfortunately, I kind of only read like nonfiction, marketing
Ooh.
books and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yawn.
So
Just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah,
Those could be interesting if you
could be.
get into the theory of marketing. But
Yeah.
I mean, marketing is useful for when you need to figure out how to put yourself out there more. But if you want to be like creative, you need like more of the fiction stuff driven into.
But marketing's exhausting. Like I feel like
Oh,
I started
do you know if
even as a
you're
consultant.
INFP
Like I just don't want to do it.
okay. I don't know who wants to answer that.
Okay, so ENTJs are a lot more dominant. They're a lot more assertive. They're some people would say a lot more bossy. They can be also a lot more motivational if they're on the more healthy side. They're a lot more extroverted. They're a lot more get things done. They know what they want. They know how to achieve it. And they will delegate and do the things they need to do to get that. And they will network like mad. INFPs, on the other hand, are...
We have no idea what we're doing.
Exactly. And we're far more reserved.
Which is why we have to read books.
And even then, it's like...
why we have lists of... Like, INFPs are more sporadic. We're more random. We're more impulsive. We're more spontaneous. We're like the introverted version of an ENFP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and INFPs tend to be dabblers, whereas ENTJs tend to have more of a path and a focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading something about time management the other day because I kind of struggle with that because I've always got like 6 or 7 plates that I'm juggling at every, at any given time. And somebody was saying, or the author was saying, like, pick one thing. And I'm like, how do you pick one thing? How?
Right.
Okay, so my parents wanted me to go into culinary and like practical things to make money because it's practical. Meanwhile, I'm like psychology, teaching, history, fiction, writing, like multiple things and dabbling in. So I think it's for like with the question from Kevin with INFPs and career, it's basically find a way that allows you to work for yourself in a sense. Like, yeah, you can work for other people, but find the things that you enjoy and you don't mind doing and focus on that. Don't necessarily, oh, will this bring me money? Or, oh, will this make me this? Or, oh, will this put me this? Focus on the things that you know you love. And there may be many areas of that. Some you may dabble in more than others. Some you may gain experience in. And sometimes, yes, you'll have to do the things you hate. But I would say find something that sparks the creativity and enjoyment in you that allows you to go further in life and into whatever career you want to go in. And many INFPs, like Christian would know this, will switch interest in things they want to do. And that could be from anywhere from teaching to becoming an actor. And so it really depends on your interests, what you want to do, what you don't want to do, and like figuring that out and becoming self-aware enough to be able to.
Samuel, I thought you said INFPs are not as inspirational as ENTJs. What is this?
It's true.
You're a fraud.
Okay, see, I've had to do this being a youth leader. I've had to do this with the youth. And I've had to watch a lot of inspirational videos, so most of this is just me parroting what I've heard from other.
This is heresy. We have to go.
Hold on. I want to jump in here real quick
because you embrace the apathy.
For me, I think my career has to be an extension of who I am as a person. And so the through line of my entire life is writing in some way. Right now, I'm a technical writer consultant, so I write software documentation or some semblance of that in technology. I'm currently in finance, but I've worked in television, and then I was in government for like 12 weeks. But the through line is writing because it's an extension of who I am as a person. And so it's aligned with my values. It's aligned with my goals. It's not, in a weird way, the book that got me into MBTI was a book called Do What You Are, which is about finding your career, your strengths and your weaknesses through your type. And I think for INFPs, you really I feel like I don't have a choice. Like I can do other things aligned to who I am, to what I'm interested in, but I can't be something I'm not, especially, as I get older, it's more and more difficult to be like, no, I'm going to go off and do this thing. And the universe is like, no, you're not. Sit down.
Yeah. It's like in all things, be true to yourself.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Kevin, I think just like keeping that tie and that suit will work really well for you. In terms of your career.
If I could jump in with my own personal experience, because I've switched a couple of jobs. So I've done retail. I've worked in a management training position. Yeah, it was awful. Except for the Apple Store, but but no, it's bad. You know, training to be a manager, doing sales. I went to law school, so I have my JD and my MBA as well, because I got a dual degree. And now I want to be I'm actually going to be applying to grad school this year to PhD programs in history. So you know, the life of an INFP is a lifelong journey in just trying to figure out like what it is you want
and what you are.
Right. Because the problem is that like, as you gain more like any SI experience, then you start, you know, the pieces of the puzzle start fitting together with your identity, and sometimes it changes. So it's so hard to kind of like pin down what you like, because sometimes they can change from moment to moment. So so I think the best thing to do is just try to find like a core value that you have or something, and then like see how that and then trying to find a career that is aligned with that. So I think the big thing too is that, and this is something like a career counselor advice that she gave me, is to try and envision. Thank you, Josh. Try to envision, like do a lot of research into what a career entails, because, and especially like in the day-to-day stuff, because like the job description usually does not really like thoroughly explain like what it is you have to do. So like go on online forums, try to do informational interviews with people in the careers that you think you might want to go into, and hear what the day-to-day is like, because like if you can't handle the day-to-day, then you're not gonna, then it's not for you. But the other thing too is that like the problem where we get stuck in with as INFPs is just the oh, I have to do all the research and I have to know everything before I get into whatever I want to do. Like at some point you have to just take that leap of faith and jump into it and give it the good old college try, you know, work in the career for 3 years. And if you don't like it, then you can move on to something else. But if you're like, while you're in the career, you can, I mean, like so many people now, especially like millennials are very much into the slash career, right? So it's like you're a writer / musician / you know, film editor / whatever, right? So, you know, you have your day job, but then, you know, then you have all your hobbies that you can do that can also be fulfilling. So, you know, you can also do that approach, right? So do a job that you can actually, you can stomach and tolerate, that can like, and that can fuel your side jobs or side gigs until you decide, hey, I want one of my side gigs to be my main job. So that's something that you can do.
Yeah, and it's hard for FI to get into something if its heart's not feeling it. So if you already feel like you don't care about it, just drop it while it's hot instead of investing a lot of time in it, or else eventually you'll drop it anyway.
Don't do the SP thing where, for people who are familiar with Enneagram, where like, I just have to push through it. No, just stop lying to yourself. Don't be the martyr. Just I've done that.
I literally just dropped something, and it was so freeing. It was like, no, like this was who I was even in March or like June, and it's not who I am now, and that's okay. I think learning to kind of let things go has really kind of freed me a lot, and I think, you know, I don't have a plan. My career is a mess. Like, I'm a consultant now, so I can get a 6-month gig, I can get a year gig, who knows? And like, but I'm constantly doing something new, which is great. And it's kind of forcing me to just like let go and enjoy the journey and just figure things out as I go, which I think is helping me in the pandemic in a weird way. So it's not like, oh, this is the plan. This is the plan I've had my entire life, and I'm going according to the plan. Because I think one of the things that INFP in particular do well is, oh, everything's gone to crap. Now what? And we can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what we can make.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just no, I think you make good points. I lost my train.
Yeah, and so to the two Pauls, your thoughts on this?
Sir? It's just going to be us gesturing to each other the whole time. Okay, I'll go ahead.
No, I can go.
Yeah, and I do have to echo a lot of these the sentiments being expressed here, because I think it's true. There is, you know, especially, you know, for young people, there is like a lot of pressure to like, oh, you know, like figure out what you do and, go to, it's like the rote plan of like, decide what you want to major in, once you leave high school, then, do that for 4 years or so. And then, start on a career path, which is totally fine. If you're a TE Dom, for example, hey, whatever floats your boat. Exactly. But it's totally okay. I mean, I'm 44 years old and I'm still not really sure what I want to do. Like, I like what I do now. I'm a marketing coordinator for an engineering firm, which is a path I never thought I'd been on, but I've been doing it for over 5 years. And I enjoy the work because I get to write as a marketer. And it's also that kind of low key marketing where it doesn't really matter. Like, you're not constantly focused on, metrics or things like that, or trying to be engaging all the time. Just once in a while you network somewhere. And I really appreciate the fact that, and maybe this appeals to my SI, that eventually all the work we do like goes towards, somebody's house or like a school or a government building, for example. And then you're just cruising around one day and say, oh, wow, like I formatted a document that made that building possible. The slight touch of self-deprecation there. But before that, like a lot of my career paths were very like NF. Like I was an astrologer for many years and until I got a bit disillusioned with it. And before that, plenty of like, the Joe jobs, like the retail. I worked in bookstores, which, don't get me wrong, as an INFP is fantastic. Because what do you do when you're bored? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. I used to work at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, exactly. And before that, like I was a bus conductor in London. Crying out loud. And which was fun. I used to pretend it was one of those like classic double-decker buses, the Route Masters, where you get on at the back. I used to pretend it was like an old style ship because they've got the pole, and I'd hang off the pole, like, we're at sea and stuff. Anyway, it's just a bit of a ramble, but just to go back to all this, I used to be very, insecure about like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I should have my shit sorted out. And it took me a long time to come to terms with the fact, like, it's okay, like find something you enjoy or find aspects of the work you do that you enjoy. And if you don't necessarily have that, then find things in your hobbies that you enjoy to help bolster, your creativity and your sense of purpose, which I've done in multiple angles. And again, just going back to, I like the work I do, but it's not to say I'll do it forever. And I've got plenty of other interests and obsessions and options open. So it's okay. It's fine to like have like a temporary plan, but it's also okay to have no idea.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Paul. It's INFPs tend to need a creative endeavor to kind of catch their attention. It needs to inspire them in some way. So that's a great way of putting it. And Paul B?
Yeah. I like these discussions. They're geared towards, that concept of multiplicity in your life. I mean, the kind of person that will find what they love to do and stay with it till the day they die, that is an amazing thing and very likely out of reach for the INFP. Or for any, I would say any P type, any like for SE and any someone who thrives on that sort of gathering of new experiences, new ideas. There's a really great book by an author named Emily Wapnick. It's called How to Be Everything, and it's about the concept of the multi-potentialite, the idea, the career of, or the life of many different pursuits. There's different ways to go about it. Though the more straightforward one is to have, the slash career. Right? That's I think Christian said, right? The having multiple streams of income at once. Great. But there's also some more unconventional approaches. One she calls the Einstein Approach. Einstein developed his, at least his initial physical, you can say metaphysical theories while he worked as a patent clerk. And his passion was not being a patent clerk, but it paid the bills, and it was a job that wasn't too stressful, so that at the end of the day, or throughout the day, and at the end of the day, he could pursue those things that were more of his passion. So that's an alternate route. I've researched this because I've been struggling this for a while. Like being a trainer, but sometimes it's telling them to contract their abs and glutes during a push-up, it doesn't get to the deeper levels of human existence, really. When I get a client who's talking to me about mental health issues they're having or serious identity struggles, and I can help them connect that idea of physical fitness to their aspirations. Like, I hate working out personally, don't like it, but I do it because I know it's good and I know it can bring you more capability. It can help you get more out of the rest of the life that you live. So like the times where I get to connect to something deeper, so you can find aspects of your job that you want, that you really enjoy, and tailor what you do in your life to yourself. You can also, but one thing I really wanted to bring up this other approach that is in that book. Wapnick calls it the Phoenix approach, which was kind of where this conversation seemed to be going. Is I think from Matt and then the handsome Paul down below. It's you might want to do everything. You don't have to do everything at once, right? Life is unfolding. You can be in one chapter, one career, one occupation, and you can not love it anymore, and then you can move on to something else. You don't unlearn experience you have. You build skills. You grow as a person, and you bring it forward into something new. It's not wasted time. It's time of discovery. So there isn't that need to find that one thing you want to do for the rest of your life. I think as IP types, and the IP types, we really care about identity and finding a singular coherent identity. For INFPs, difference between like the ITPs is they just cry about it all the time. But there's Joyce. We're all INFPs. I don't think if I did offend you guys, you're not helping the stereotype. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Wait, you guys have identities?
Right? Other people have identities. But when we're trying to find a career, we have to try to find our identity. And our career is not an identity. An identity is not defined by how you make your money. Your value as a person is not defined by how you make your money. I think one of the best things we can do is start to understand who we are. I think Matt hit on this really well. He hits on everything really well. God, he speaks so eloquently. This idea of finding the things that you like, and you can find different opportunities to do them. Like you can find like writing is might be a common theme in your life, something you're good at, something you enjoy. So we can start to identify parts of ourselves or essential characteristics of ourselves that exist regardless of the specific scenario, the specific context. It's like, if let's say, the Hulk has super strength. That's a bad example, actually. No, let's say the Hulk has super strength. He doesn't just have super strength in certain situations. He always has it with him. He can always use it at any time. Usually when he's angry. And he doesn't always work very well. But you can have those. You are who you are. You've got the superpower inside you, and it doesn't have to be tied to a particular endeavor. So you can bring that core self to these different endeavors, right? You have your identity, regardless of what job you do, but instead you bring it into the jobs that you have. That's where you combine your current interests with your more cardinal characteristics, and at the junction of those, that's where you find what to do with your life right now. And it'll change.
That's well said. Yeah, Leon?
Me. Okay, so I'm gonna so career. So one thing I remember reading about the INFP is the sense of having neurosis over potential, because there's so much potential that could be easily seen in oneself. So there's a sense of neurosis. So just knowing that, I think it's relieving. It's kind of like making you less neurotic by knowing that all of us are neurotic anyway.
Yeah.
And then the second one is about, because you see a lot of potential, like you're already gifted in coming up with ideas. So be happy with what you are fortunate with, and try to run with one of them. Because and then you I think the other thing is to take that first practical step of action. So we could overwhelm ourselves with the idealism, and I think all types to a certain extent. So if you could put it on 10-point scale, 10 being your at your ideal career and 0 not at all, and think about in what ways have you been in your ideal career without being in your ideal career. Like what kind of qualities do you represent? Like what kind of qualities do you live? What kind of values do you live by? What do you have clarity so far? And then think about where you are on that scale. So if you're at a 3, then just think about how you, first of all, how come you're not at a 1, right? First of all, think about like, what have you done so far?
Yeah.
Look at the cup, where the cup is half full, or I don't know if 3 out of 10. I don't know. I have to do the math on. But bring that up to a 5. So think about how can I take steps to get from a 3 to a 5, and not try to overwhelm ourselves with the 10, because that could be very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with perfectionism, like INFPs, because they get neurotic about potential, like they get neurotic about a lot of other things too. Like, and so perfectionism might keep you from stepping into the things that you could do really well at. So it to not be so hard on yourself and to do the things that you love.
And it's okay to walk a little bit down a road and find out that it's not for you, that it's not what you thought it was going to be, that it doesn't fit perfectly, because you have to pass the time anyway. And this is something I've just recently figured out. But just because you maybe take a class or something doesn't mean you have to finish. Like you're not committed to anything except the present moment.
Right.
Intuition wants to know that it's going to go well, or wants to know, even NE still wants to do some sort of forecasting, even if it's more disorganized forecasting. But truth is, as great of an ability as intuition is, you can't know if something is working until you do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you can always go somewhere else.
Yeah, so something about the NE-SI axis is that SI will want to know all the SI before doing it, but it's like, hey, just do it. Like, you don't have to overthink it. But I'm wondering
about... teased me about this several times. Yeah, Paul, you don't have to know everything. Just do it. No, so she's seen that many times.
Absolutely.
Don't agree with that.
Sherman, your thoughts?
I mean, it's all been said so well. I think one of the biggest things is putting yourself into new contexts so you can learn more about who you are. Like we constantly try to be like, okay, I need to find the perfect job or the perfect thing for me. But you don't really know yourself at that deep of a level until you put yourself in contexts that are just completely different. And through doing that, you start to oh, I don't want that in my life. I don't want that even more. And you start to narrow in on the other spectrum, I suppose. And I mean, in terms of like what you're doing now for a job or whatever, do something, as it's been said before, do something that just provides you enough money and enough time to double down on your passion, whatever that is. And don't waste it away by playing games or something like that too much.
Right.
I put myself into that position for many years because I was like, oh, I got this job. I can just stay home and play games, and then like 3 years down the road, like I have nothing to show for it. Right. I had a lot of fun, which was cool, but like it didn't, like eventually you need to create the systems to give you the life that you want to live as well. Like it's you have to have both the FI and the TE. And we try to obviously go in through FI and be like, well, if I just find the perfect thing for me, then it'll all work out. But you kind of also have to be like, well, how do I intentionally create the life that I want to live? I need to wake up and do these things that maybe I don't want to do, but I do need to just kind of like suck it up and do the things that are going to create the life that I want to live later.
Absolutely.
Finding joy and creativity through doing that as well. Like, well, I'm stretching myself a little bit right now. I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. All right, this is a learning experience. Even if you don't necessarily like doing it in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think kind of the moral, the thread running through all of this is that INFPs really need to tap into their auxiliary NE to go out and actually explore, instead of fantasizing about it in our minds about like the perfect job or what we would like to do. The problem is that we get stuck, and I've experienced this where I do so much SI research into what I want to do that I start feeling like my life has no purpose, because I'm just kind of like, I start feeling very unmoored and untethered. And I just feel really aimless. And that's not a good thing either, because I think for anybody, but especially for INFPs, because we want to find our purpose. So like, I think there has to be a good balance struck between, you know, doing the kind of like internal exploration of what we want, but then we have to know when to engage in our extroverted functions and actually engage and do those things, so that way, as others have said, you know whether or not, like, you know, the thing that you imagined you want to do is what you want to do. Because so often I've had my hopes completely shattered because, you know, I imagine things to be so much better than they actually are in person. So that's why it's so important you have to put yourself out there.
There's this great line by Oscar Wilde. He says, "There are only two tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want, and the other is getting it."
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is so true. Yeah, Samuel?
I was just thinking of the question that's on the screen and what Cristian said about exploring, and which actually leads me to answering this from first what Cristian said, and then of course the question, because it kind of correlated with the INFPs having difficulty just going and doing stuff. In a way, I did do this. I did kind of strap on a backpack, got on a plane, and just went somewhere. But I had to save up. I had to save, I think it was enough money for the plane ticket. Then I had to save up enough money to go to where it was I was going, which was Australia. It was like the first time I had really gone overseas anywhere by myself. And I had no plan as to what I was going to do there. I just know I had a working holiday visa. I went from hostel to hostel, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I got into things that were way over my head. And that was when life just was like, "Hi, nice to meet you, sucker punch."
Was it all in the process? Like, did you do it to FI find yourself? Also, yeah, Sherman.
I didn't. Okay, so I was working in a cookie factory, and a guy had mentioned how he had gone to Australia and how I should go to Australia to experience life outside of home and everything. And like, he's like, "You're still young, you can get a working holiday visa." And I'm like, that is a fantastic idea. So I saved the money, went to Australia for a year, and it wasn't really to find myself. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was looking for. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to see Australia. I wanted to see the pretty sights. I was in it to like just kind of enjoy it. But like in the process of going to Australia, I learned some of life's harshest lessons. And I've also learned to find bits and pieces of myself. And like actually finding myself didn't come until years after I came back from Australia. But Australia is also the place where I kind of started cooking more. And that's where the talent for cooking developed, because I was with at least one or two guys who cooked. And I wanted to do similar things because their food tasted good. And I'm like, hey, let me try that. And I was able to make similarly tasting good food. And then I didn't know what jobs I wanted to take. I didn't know, because, you know, with a working holiday visa, you could essentially do being part of the Commonwealth, as I'm from the same place as this guy is that you would have been able to work anywhere, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to go. I had no idea if my experiences counted for their experiences. I was completely lost and ended up in some very unique situations.
Well, so the moral of the story is to go to Australia. And I think that was an incredible journey, by the way.
Zero plan.
That's really inspirational. It makes me want to really go out and make that kind of travel. For me, what I would say, yes, I have strapped on a backpack before. I've got on a plane, but not in conjunction with those other things. And then I also just gone exploring with a plant. Yes. So the thing is, I just suddenly decided to drive off to like several states away to Virginia, and then but I did not like tell anybody, so people were really worried. So I would recommend telling people. I think it's maybe like, using like expert feeling or something like that to keep tabs. The extrovert feelers like to keep tabs on people, but I decided not to. So people thought I was dead. I disappeared for like a few days, but
I went to Dublin on a whim to see if Guinness tasted better in Ireland. I had just taken a job in finance in the end of 2016, and I realized that I was making enough money that I could afford to travel. So I was like, oh, where am I going to go? And my curiosity, like once my knee kind of gets attached to something, it's over. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to go find out if Guinness tastes better in Dublin. And then I'll figure the rest out from there. So I booked a flight, I booked a hotel, and then I wandered around the city for a week. It was awesome.
So I have like, sorry, Matt, really quick. So I have like fantasies of doing that, but I'm part of the, what I've talked about earlier. The problem is like, I imagine doing those things, but I've never actually done something like that. I've traveled before. I've gone to Europe 4 different times, but it's never been on like a, I have an itch to go somewhere and then immediately just book a ticket and just go with no plan. That's never been the case. But I'd like to sometime.
So for me, I've been living in Japan for about 14 years now.
Wow.
I came here when I was 18, kind of on a whim. I just picked a place. I knew nothing about Japanese or the culture. I had no interest in it. A friend from high school, also named Matt, was like, hey, I found this program. You want to go? And I said no. And then he kind of convinced me into it. And then I kind of failed the interview because I was unsure that I wanted to do it. Like I was afraid, right? I turned down the trip to Spain or whatever in high school because I was afraid of leaving Michigan. But he, his grandfather passed away. He backed out, and then I got into that position. And I went to Japan, and like I said, I've been here for 14 years. It's completely changed my life. I lived in Korea for a year after a stint in Japan, and it's you have no idea what's going to happen when you leave your comfort zone. All the treasures, all the gold, all the rewards are outside of your comfort zone, as they say, right? And beyond those dragons and everything like that. And it's just you will learn so much about yourself and other people, by just going and trying to piece it together. Like I had to learn. I always called it like I went to baby mode. Like I had to learn how to walk and talk, and I didn't understand the culture or anything. And through that, I made so many friends. I mean, I'm married. I got a kid now. Like all these things that came from those experiences, and many were good. Many were terrifying. Getting lost in a foreign country without any money is not a fun situation, but it teaches you something about yourself. It teaches you that you can acclimate, that you can cope, that you can figure it out. And it's just, I highly recommend it. Let's say.
You did the thing I wish I had done when I was 18, because I was considering doing the thing that you actually did, but I never followed through with it, and it's always been one of my bigger regrets.
Joyce, is it appropriate for someone on the panel to be inspired by the panel? Is it, or only the people who are asking questions?
I think everybody can be inspired by it.
Yeah, you can be inspired by somebody on the panel if you're on the panel.
Okay, just want to check to make sure. Yeah, because just hearing the story about Japan, like I really want to one day live in South America. So that's like an extra boost of potential confidence in going.
You'll figure it out. Like I came here with the intention of I'm going to get out of Michigan. I'm going to get away from my mom, who's a very sweet, loving, very helpful person. But I needed to learn how to.
I like how you started with, I'm just going to get out of Michigan. It's like Japan.
180, wherever. But with that intention of I'm going to learn some of those life skills that I haven't had to learn yet. And, I found ways of cheating myself out of a lot of those lessons, but I still overall, do it, and you'll find a way, and you'll tap into that mysterious TE, right? And you'll figure out how to set up your life, whatever context it is. And through that also you learn more, as I said, about who you are, which is priceless.
Yeah.
It really is priceless. Yeah. And
absolutely.
Receivers are great at adapting on a whim. So you guys are great at the question below. And so the two Pauls, what are your thoughts on this? I'll ask them to talk first because.
Oh, I'll go first. Okay. Yeah, we'll just wave at each other. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you may regret this, of course, because of course I read the question. My eyes went immediately to strapped on, and my head went somewhere else entirely.
Of course.
So there was a lot of exploring. Let me say that. But yes, no, the backpack, and yeah, definitely yes, and no, and yes, and then eventually more yeses after that. I've never fully just grabbed my bag and just buggered off to the airport and took off somewhere. But I've definitely done things impulsively, and I think because I access my SI very well, I usually want at least some sense of stability somewhere where I'm going. So, for example, Sherman, I think that's so cool that you're in Japan. I lived in Japan for about a year and a half, and it was fantastic. And the situation there is I had a job set up, and they take care of your visa and a lot of the governmental things that are, definitely harder to navigate, when you don't even speak the language, for example. And, I was forever grateful for that experience. And I lived in London for 2 years, and London, just many major metropolitan cities in Europe, for example, is a fantastic hub if you want to be an explorer, because you've got a little hub. But if you want to go and experience different cultures and just wander around for a while, I mean, it's so well known, it's basically a cliche at this point, where it's the young, American person, and I say American in terms of North America, wandered off to Europe, for a little while to find themselves. So I've definitely done that, and definitely on a micro scale too. I think there's a lot to be said for, and I've heard this, I think personality hackers used it as an example of developing one's NE, is just wander around, your town or your city, with no agenda in mind. This drives my ESTJ wife crazy, because if I suggest, let's just, go out, it says, oh, well, where are we going? How long are we going to be out for? What are we doing? I was I don't know. I just want to look around. But
alarm bells.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I just want to clarify that's, the micro scale, but there's a lot to be said for it. And just to be a tourist in one's hometown, you don't necessarily have to, jet off to parts unknown, for example, to experience something completely new. You can just wander down side streets and suddenly be somewhere you never thought possible. Actually, one of the perks of the pandemic right now is I've taken to exploring alleys just as a way to navigate more safely, and it's fantastic. I've never go, and this is like I live in Kitsilano, Vancouver, which is a very kind of Venice-y beach, which might be a more well-known neighborhood for everyone watching. But it's that very yoga latte kind of neighborhood. But I wander down alleys and it's I don't know where the hell I am, but I like it. As a perk, I get to look through people's windows.
Well,
yes.
I think yes. Given how long the quarantine was, I think I kind of ran out of alleys.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But and also I like the idea of kind of using that model for taking an actual route, a different route, as just a way of creating new neural pathways in a way, because you're just exploring, different avenues. And yeah, by the same token, the notion of like actually literally, going, just grabbing your bag and just going off somewhere with, no real agenda. It's fantastic. Sometimes it goes badly, and you get a person like Christopher McCandless, if you've read the book Into the Wild or seen the movie Into the Wild, where maybe have an idea of what you're doing, dude, before you die in a bus. Spoiler alert. That's bad TE right there. That's a lesson to us all, a cautionary tale. But yeah.
The man without a plan.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And on that note, I will pass it on to someone else who's great.
Paul B.
He said someone else is great, so I legitimately got confused. I apologize for that. So I need to adjust the strap-on comment first and foremost. I'm sorry, Paul. I thought you'd find it fun, but if you don't like it, I'll bring it back to the store.
Oh, that's cool. It's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually a prude, and I love the Lord, so I have to clarify that every time I make a dirty joke. If someone makes some dirty jokes, it's because they're a prude. If someone doesn't, they're a little freak.
I needed a new pillow anyway.
You always gotta watch out for the quiet ones.
Yeah, he's something. What was the quiet? No, I frequently strap on a backpack, mostly because I'm a fragile person. I need my inhaler and EpiPen with me at all times. So cool. Do people do that around the world, Brett?
I don't.
I don't even do it. I don't.
What?
Maybe some rap songs?
Sort of. It's like a gangster rap kind of thing. I don't really know. Like, I listen to Lonely Island. It's not really gangster rap.
Well, I'm on a boat. Might be close.
Oh, yeah. I like you, Samuel. I always like you, but especially now.
Nice.
I'm very afraid of traveling. Because I'm afraid of not knowing the language, and I'm afraid of communicating. I feel like it's going to be really awkward. And people have asked me, when's the last time you went on vacation? Like, I'm 27. I think the last time I went on vacation was, I wouldn't even wonder if it counts, when I was 17, and we went on a field trip to, not a field trip. It was a trip with to Cuba with what I call the football team, which is actually the show choir. I just want to see if I can fool some people. I played bass, so it's like extra lame.
Should I sing tenor? Bring it.
Yes, tenor here.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. Okay, let's do a little 3-round at the end. I haven't done it. Like, I haven't done a lot of world exploring on my own. Let me rephrase that. Haven't done any world exploring on my own, and I haven't really had the opportunity to. Right, when I was 20, I moved out on my own. So paying my own rent, paying my own food, all that. It's funny when people at work say like, "Oh, nice food. Did you make it yourself?" No shit. But it's amazing. But I've been independent, for a decent amount, and I haven't had a ton of money. My job doesn't pay me a lot. That was shortly after I finished. I finished school a few years ago. I don't really have the money to go around and explore like a nomad quite the way I might like to. Japan and Australia, those two places I'd really like to explore in particular. But I'm really glad that Paul mentioned walking in alleys, and Leon. I'm really glad you guys into walking in alleys, because it's really nice. Sometimes just putting on headphones, listening to music, and just walking on aimlessly, it's nice. I think because it helps bridge the gap between fear of being a stranger in a strange land, but still exploring the new. And I think sometimes those new sights you see when you're traveling around, even if it's in your own city, the novelty can kind of give you more stimulus for your mind to be creative. It's really nice. Doing it with other people is a bit of a pain, because you gotta manage their experience at the same time. But I really do enjoy. I like going into a sort of a bit of a novel territory, but it's always going to be solitary. And it's going to be, I tend to use it more as like reflection, almost meditation, like thought processing. I'll take an extra long walk from going somewhere I've never been. Sometimes that novelty is just stimulating. Otherwise, I'm pretty damn lame, and I apologize for being who I am. So, no, I'm kidding. No.
Yeah, don't do that. Can I?
What? Yeah.
I thought it was I don't know, intriguing because you said you were afraid of not knowing the language.
Yeah,
right?
I saw something clicking.
Well, yeah, because like FI is never going to have the language for whatever you're feeling anyway, right? And you learn how to communicate things. I didn't know any Japanese.
Really?
I had to figure it out, and I still like. It's taught me that I can explain things so much better through metaphor than trying to narrow down on the precise, clear TI word or whatever it is that's going to communicate whatever feeling that it doesn't have anyway.
I would think that metaphor would be even harder in a foreign language.
Yeah.
Well, but you learn to go around to explain whatever it is, and I think it's been an incredible NE kind of experience of teaching me how to be okay with like, well, I don't know how to say this. How could I say it? Like instead of why don't I know, but like how could I get to the point where I do? And even if it's drawing pictures, I mean, I remember my first girlfriend in Japan. It was like, how do you communicate? We had to draw pictures and just broken whatever language we could, right?
Wow.
And it is scary. I understand that. And sometimes you're like, God, if I could just say it clearly, then that would be great. But also there's with everything kind of like failing forward and finding a way to like implement it into a later experience. You learn a lot of interesting ways of dealing with the inner insecurity, I suppose.
If you learn some of the foundations, you'll learn how to figure it out, and then you can just refine that over time. That's a really good point. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, so it seems like you both mentioned some really great. Everyone mentioned great points. So yeah, you guys
especially me. It's fine. It's okay. Kidding.
Yeah, and so FI is a languageless function.
Yeah.
So it's hard to put words to FI. It's almost very vivid in its own right, and it's hard to really translate it into words. And I think that goes for all introverted functions to some extent. It's hard to translate introverted functions into the external world. It takes energy, and sometimes you can only transfer a percentage of it to the outer world.
Well, what I heard about is about how FI and also SI are kind of relatively not obviously with content in a way. So like with NI and TI, there's like more clearly like a content there's something that you're referring to. SI and FI is kind of like this. What?
Right. For me, what's really helped with the language is just reading a lot of books, a lot of fiction or nonfiction, and of course you start learning a lot of vocabulary, or if you're interested in looking up what words mean that you don't know, and that has helped me immensely in being able to articulate how I feel. I've always been, since a very 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 little, a voracious reader. So I've never, shouldn't say never, but I don't often find myself struggling to articulate, because I just consume so much literature, and I come across so many words, and I'm always curious, like, what does this word mean? And then I'm like, oh wow, like that has a really subtle nuance to what I felt before or whatever. So then I start trying to incorporate it in my vocabulary. I think if you
go ahead. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, so just if you want to be able to articulate, read.
Right.
I know someone asked a question about like the impracticalities of how you're making money. I think it's almost like language that we were just talking about. In a way, there isn't a form for us to finding a proper medium for us to express ourselves.
Yeah,
so I think a lot of people here have expressed very well about how they see themselves career-wise beyond beyond normal labels of what is career. So actually, whoever asked that last question, really congratulate what you're doing. I think we need more of that.
Mm-hmm. And to quote Gary Vee, who cares what other people think? You do you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes we do. And leading into this question from Drew, I think I've had trouble.
Good question.
When I'm in stress, like sometimes because introverted feeling is so strong for me, I can dip into my shadow and not even realize until much later. So like I'm thinking that all of these values that people maybe are trampling on, or like I'm not following or something like that, are my FI values, but they're not. It turns out that they're shadow FE, and it feels like there's a razor's edge between them, to be honest, where like the line between stress and rest is so fine that, and because they're both judgment functions, like it can feel, I don't know about fluid, but like there's a lot of kind of overlap there for me.
Yeah. That's yeah. Go ahead, Sam. That's a hard question. I don't know. Like I don't want to sound like pretentious, but I know the irony in that statement.
No, you sound eloquent, Christian. Eloquent.
Thank you. I like that. It's a better euphemism. I don't know. Like, I mean, my SI cannot pull from any example where I thought that I was using a cognitive function that I later found out was different. To be honest, like I've been so engrossed in typology since I first started. I was pretty like I read a lot about I consumed a lot of information about the Myers-Briggs system and all the cognitive functions. And you know, if anybody's familiar with OPS, I definitely have consumed very high up. I'm probably sleep consumed. So anyways, so I was fairly kind of, I mean, I wasn't an expert. I learned new things all the time, but I don't know if I've ever like confused a cognitive function. Like I thought I was using TI and it was really TE or something like that. Like they've been fairly clear. I mean, there's a lot of nuance sometimes and subtle detail that can be difficult, but I can't think of a moment where I thought that I was, if I did, it was maybe like a shadow function. I thought I was using FE and it was really like FITE or something like that. Or I thought I was using NI, but it was really NESI. And that's something that I've read or I've learned about, is that from Asura Psych, that two cognitive functions on the same axis can look like a cognitive function from the opposite orientation. So like NESI can look like NI, but it's really just NE.
I like the example you gave of the TI-TE mix-up, because actually that happened to me before. So, but
it can be hard.
Yeah, well, I would say like I think very early on when I first looked at typology, well, I didn't know actually. The reality is that we use all 8 of the functions,
right?
And so I think T is a function that is called a preferred function, but actually for the INFP, the introverted thinking is actually a stronger one.
Yeah,
so
which is something. Can I just really interject really quickly? I'm sorry, my Ennie's like So what's interesting is Dario Nardi has a test called Keys to Cognition. And I talked to a lot of INFPs who have taken his test. They actually score higher on TI than they do TE, and probably because TI is so similar to FI.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yep.
It is. So that's exactly it. I think they're similar in direction, and I was thinking actually I feel like my thinking's more like inner in a way. Like the extra thinking is actually like pretty weak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think us, like our FI and how we logically structure our value system is very similar to how TI structures system of logic for like everything.
Yeah, both TI and FI are forms of analysis, so they will feel similar in their identity functions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so anyone else want to answer this question?
I can talk a little bit about it. I've spent a couple of years now trying to like refine the naming convention that I use to explain the cognitive functions as different like personified characters and stuff like that. And I've gone like through so many reiterations of it, trying to narrow in on the best precise word that's going to explain it in the way that I want. And what I've realized is that wasn't, it was me pretending to do TI, and yet I was still making the evaluation based on how do I feel about the word, like what emotions does this word actually convey, because that's the one that I want to use. And like I have two ENTPs on my team that like say, well, this is the correct word, and I'm like, yeah, but that word has like no heart, and so that's not correct. And then I try to go, dig down deeper and do more TI, but it's not TI. It's just like this fake TI that is actually just me trying to find another word for it and then evaluating it based on how I feel about it.
Hey, but I'm gonna be jumping off.
So,
for sure.
Bye, Leon.
Love the channel, Leon. Type next, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, ultimately,
I think it was actually going to physically jump.
He did. Ultimately, even if you're saying, okay, well, this is the most efficient word, and kind of what I'm hearing is like this word will do, from like a high TE user, like this word is sufficient, and you're saying no, I want something that captures all of its essence. I want to capture or this particular aspect of it. But ultimately, like you can't make a decision without feeling. It doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like, if you take how Jung describes feeling, introverted feeling, it's an evaluative function, right? So like you have to like, it would be impossible to, of the millions of different information that we take in, not just like actual like, I don't know, like text data, like news or whatever, but actual like external stimulus. We take in so much information just through our eyes that we need to have some sort of criteria on which we evaluate all of that information and determine how to make a decision, or else we would just be sitting so overwhelmed with the data that we're perceiving that we wouldn't move. So we all use, a feeling judging function, whether FI or FE.
How about the two halls?
Handsome?
Okay. I guess I'm just going again. I'll always go first. Why not? I was really thinking about this for quite a while, and I'd say definitely the one I would conflate a lot with my FI is FE. And there was actually quite a while where I seriously debated whether I was actually an ISFJ. I never thought I was an INFJ for some reason, which an ISFJ, as it turns out, is a very common mistype with the INFP as well. And because I really, one thing, like I really value, like I value harmony, but just in the sense of like the overall vibe. And now, granted, this can also be conflated by being a 9 as well. Right. That doesn't help. And there's, of course, the wonderful potpourri of social anxiety and shyness that came along with my adolescence. But after reflecting on it, and I know I've dropped personality hackers before, but they talked about this whole thing of getting in touch with introverted feeling and like underlying, what are your core values? Like what really matters to you? And going over that, the exercises they provided, it came down to a lot of what I really care about is just basic politeness. And I don't mean like Downton Abbey level, like etiquette or anything. Like, I don't care what fork you use, for example, but just just basic nuances. Like I realize I'm like probably the oldest person on this panel, so I may be showing my age, but I am baffled by the people who don't say please in a goddamn email.
Oh yeah.
Like, and in business, for crying out loud. This like, yeah, and this is like, this is stuff like toddlers learn, like please and thank you. So I'm not like, and I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. For example, like I want to assume like nobody's intentionally out to be rude or disrespectful. But yeah, and of course, the kind of that negative side of it, being an Enneagram 9 as well, is like, yeah, I'll find it like if someone offends like that basic level of my FI, is I'll get very passive aggressive. Like where I'll just avoid, like I won't be mean to them, but I'll just avoid interacting with them for whatever reason. And yeah, I realized, it's never the FE level where like I feel responsible for the mood. I remember AJ Durenth I can't remember which one of his ebooks it was, but he actually talked about a good way to distinguish between FI and FE is this hypothetical scenario where you are at a dinner party and all of the other couples know each other except for this one couple who don't know anyone. Now, I don't know how they got invited, but that doesn't matter. But they're here, and it's like, what do you do? And they talked about like, well, if you value FE, if you prefer FE, you're going to want to like, your odds are you are going to want to look after them on a certain level. You may be very likely to like introduce yourself to this couple and then take them around the room, even if it's not your place. Whereas FI is, that's not really my thing. You might feel for those people because you know what it's like to be the odd person out in that scenario, but you won't necessarily want to take responsibility for any sense of disharmony in it. So anyways, that long roundabout one, even though, and it's to say we all use the cognitive functions, it's not that you can never use anything that's not in your, top 4 or anything like that. And of course I do use FE on rare occasions, but overall I realized that a lot of what I mistook for being FE was just the fact that I value a lot of the things that, a lot of the behaviors that are often connected with FE, and just turned out to be my FI.
Quick PSA, that's why it's so important to look at cognition and not at behavior, because
exactly
2 types can have the same behavior but arrive at it in 2 different ways.
Too right.
Yeah, look at the why, not the what. And so always.
Yeah, I've kind of an interesting situation.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been studying typology for like on my own just for like the past decade or so, like really in depth. Like, I took a version of MBTI. Then I started to explore Kiersey and then Jung and Myers, and like I've read most of like the kind of the canonical texts, and huge nerd, and I just kept getting more affirmation that I was in fact an INFJ. So I know it's pretty sure, and it's funny because I'm thinking back to even watching Sherman's channel. I've subscribed for years because it's not only type but it's also nerdy, which is great. And even watching those, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm INFJ. I see the NI, that makes sense, and I related to it so much. And Joyce is about to puke. So I actually, so when I started to explore that, I guess the controversial bastard child of the type community, objective personality, and started to see the idea of the jumpers. I was like, okay, I feel from my understanding I've got FE, but I also feel a little standoffish. So I thought, oh, well, I'm one of those jumpers. I'm a TI type. That makes sense. And then I learned more about TI and how it can be related to morality. So I thought, oh, maybe I'm a TI dominant. Actually, explains why people don't really like me. So it was like TI NI. It was like that was like a form of ISTP. And then I was like, something's not fitting right. So that's actually when, after watching some of Joyce's videos, Samuel, earlier when you tried to point at Paul Matson, you weren't sure which way to point. I understand because I just pointed this way. No, this way to Joyce.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
It's so because it's flipped, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like we're not mirrored or on StreamYard. We're like flipped. So I'm seeing this in the left. That's why I keep looking at like, are my eyebrows crooked? Like I have this obsession. Yeah, because it's so hard to. Never mind. So I took, and I will keep repping her typing service because it's freaking amazing. With the test that she has, and I scored really high on an INTI. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then when I had the typing session, she read through. Was like, yeah, no, that's not it. The JI part you got right for sure. So to explain it, and she said she thought from the test I could be INTP or INFP, and then I spoke. She's like, oh no, he's too soft. But I confused the NI, or like Christian, you said the NE and the SI together, because when they're in the middle, there's sort of that balance between the connection making and the narrowing it down. And so I associated with NI, which is that simultaneous narrowing down of the abstract, right? Rather than kind of having it in pieces. But I did also identify quite a lot with TI, because I've always been obsessed with morality. And the more I started to understand TI, I still relate to TI descriptions more than FI descriptions to this day, even though I know I don't use TI. I got FI because, TI descriptions sound like, oh, you divine absolute truths about the world. You contemplate in your dark cave and realize the true essence of something. You're always right. You're smarter than everyone else. And FI is like, yeah, you cry in movies. FI is like, you cry in movies and you want people to feel what you feel, and you're kind of petulant. Like, you're gonna relate to the TI. But
why are you gonna call us out like that?
No, me too. It was like, no wonder I'm such a little B word. But no, I get honestly love the type, but I think I know some other INFPs how to relate to TI, because if they take their value system seriously, they're trying to really construct a moral framework. They're trying to understand how the values fit together. It doesn't stop at, this is what I like, this is what I value. I think those descriptions of FI stop way too short. Did I say FI? Yeah, the descriptions of FI fall way too short. When it's really a complex evaluative approach to the world that is internal and not related to the present moment necessarily. So that's where it was, all that stringent obsession with morality, and this is the right way to do things. That was actually FI, but probably an FI that got hardened over years when it wasn't really respected. And so it's the FI morality, and then the TE burst of, no, you guys are idiots, because I wasn't really appreciated when I communicated with my FI. I literally thought I had all the opposite functions. All of them. Ridiculous. But with NE, you can also justify it. You're like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It makes sense. And you're wrong. That's why you need an NI user to tell you that you're wrong. Thank you.
Yes, well, you definitely use extroverted intuition.
Oh yeah, hence all the stupid puns, right? Like, NI does not. When Joyce does make a pun, I'm really proud of her. But NE will just like, they can't stop.
It's your
fiery. Oh my God.
It's your rapid rate of abstract thought. It's everything like you brainstorm out loud all the time. There's no natural endpoint to your sentences. I could go on and on about how you're any.
You're a jerk, but you're also my friend. So
anyone else want to answer this question or add their thoughts?
I've talked quite a bit, but if it's okay, I have a story, I guess, about FI and FE. My stepmom, my dad is a ESFJ. My mother-in-law is an ESFJ. My wife is an ENFJ. So I'm kind of surrounded by a lot of FE. And I mean, like, just first of all, like I've realized that it's, whenever I get upset at, all this stuff, like other people are doing all these things or whatever. And, a lot of people are like, well, you care about other people, so that means you're an FE, like you're putting yourself in their shoes, in their context, and you're feeling it from their space. But when my grandmother passed away, my mother-in-law was asking me, she's Japanese, my grandma's American, was asking me like, what's expected? What's the culture? What should I do in this situation? And I got upset at her. We clashed quite a bit. I got upset at her because I was like, it doesn't matter what the cultural expectations are. What do you feel is appropriate? What do you want to do? And that's, I think, kind of just a narrowed down version of what FI is to me and what FE was is to her. She wanted to, in looking at it, taking a step back, I was like, oh, okay, I can appreciate that she wanted to do it that way. She wanted to, do it in what is culturally expected and do the nice thing or the right thing or the kind thing or whatever. But from my perspective, I was like, I don't care about that. How do you feel about it? And what do you want to do? So it's just a little anecdote, I suppose.
Nice. Okay, so I want to answer the question. What do I do to help bring more meaning into my life for the people around me?
Wait, can I add something onto Matt? That is so important, that FE is always associated with being caring, but the FE and the FI, like, they go about it in different ways. They care just so differently, and FI can show a lot of caring, it kind of irrelevant to what other people are feeling or irrelevant to the context. I've noticed if I see someone who's very disabled, cerebral palsy or some kind of paralysis or mental handicap, you can see their life must be really hard. They could be walking by me and I start to like choke up. I start to get really teary, but they're smiling. Like, so they're smiling, they're happy, and like that's good. But I think the FI is a bit removed. It's like, it's almost like kind of pulling like a Kitty Pryde from X-Men Days of Future Past, or like projecting your consciousness into someone else. Matson, I know you got that, and I'm really proud of you. But just like stepping into that, and so it's tricky to, it's like calculated. It's tricky to express. It's more removed, and it takes more time to develop that evaluation. And yeah, I think maybe an FEs or in that case would say, "Oh, that person's happy. Great, I'll be happy." Whereas with any introverted function, I think the tagline can be, "It's not that simple." Right? Because it's more personal, it's more removed. So yeah, I think it's so easy for an FI user to think they're FE because I care about people. I give a damn about people other than myself. But it's
like 5 of them.
Right, exactly. Right, extended family. But the question's got to be like, again, the why. Where does it come from? If it comes from, and it doesn't have to be selfish because it's within you, but doing that, you can understand kind of different experiences in depth. It becomes a deeper experience. Like, I've had my FJ friend tell me that I can talk to her about all my problems because when the situation's gone, she doesn't really feel it. Like, and it's not like coldness. It's just her FE is engaged in that moment where the emotions are present, and then when they're not in that present moment, it's not working. Extroverted functions like require that immediate stimulus. Whereas an FI person, like I think they can really listen to you and really care deeply. It's so much that when you're gone, you feel better. They're like, "Oh my God, I got to process this person's feelings for the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm gonna pull up the Ben and Jerry's,
At a minimum."
Yeah, yeah. Because again, it's not like you're taking it and redirecting it. You're not playing with it. You're more absorbing it. You're embodying it. And that can be very taxing. So the FE can be really caring about people, and very broadly, and that has its gifts. Because when group harmony needs to be maintained, when fairness and so that objectivity needs to be maintained, the FE is great with that. When the FI has, in place of the breadth, the depth of caring, they can understand your experience more deeply. So it's not like I think I've said this on every video of Joyce's I've been. It's not, FI is not for the self, but it's a process that takes place within the self, within your own mind, right? And that's the difference. It can have the same outcome, but be a different process.
Yeah. And so the FJ Paul is talking about is me. And
Yeah.
so I noticed a difference between how me and Paul process emotions is that when someone's sharing information about themselves and it's emotional and I'm going back and forth with them in the moment, I'm feeling it in the moment, but after that moment, the weight is gone. So I told Paul, like, you can tell me anything because it doesn't weigh on me after, so it's fine. But like with FI, when you share a deep personal thing with them, they actually internalize it, and it can weigh on them after the event too, way more than it would for FE. Yeah.
I wonder if that's when the TE comes out. Like, I'm feeling it's a lot to handle. I'm going to go to the TE, which is a bit easier. Okay, what are we going to do about this? What's our plan of action to handle these emotions? But
if we get there,
yeah,
right. If we get there, right? It's because we've exhausted the other options. If we get there,
yeah.
So
absolutely.
true.
It's like a little seed that gets implanted that it's going to grow, and you're probably going to nurture it yourself.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
Gotta be careful with that.
Whether you want to or not, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've spent much of therapy learning how to place a protective barrier around myself or around my heart. So my therapist really emphasized the difference between empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
So empathy is the placing yourself in someone's shoes so that we can feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Compassion is the more detached form, right? So it's like you can understand what they're saying, but you don't bring it with you. So I've had to really learn how to do that, and also learn to set proper boundaries, or else it will weigh on me for days or
it can be wild
weeks.
though, because you can pick up on things that maybe people don't know that they're feeling, or they're not admitting to that they're feeling. And so like all of a sudden I've been in situations where like I'm feeling all of this weight being added to my shoulders, and then like I walk out of the room, or they leave the room, or something like that, and all of a sudden, oh shit, it's not them, or it's not me, it's them. Like those feelings aren't mine, and then and it's the whole, I gotta do some work now that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
Right. I the vibes thing is big for me. Like you can really feel
when it's good, it's good.
Yes, absolutely. When it's bad, you can feel it.
It's such a tricky, and it happens so quick. It's like,
it's really weird, especially when there's like really negative stuff. It's like this sense of like foreboding, and it's like it's really heavy. And it's frightening sometimes, actually, because
self-loathing is a really fun one.
Yeah. Right. But when it's with other people, like you've had like a really deep conversation with somebody and they've expressed like an immense amount of pain and trauma to you, and you sense that like heaviness, like it's like a deep, profound feeling.
What do you do afterwards? Like, do you have a strategy? Do you have like a?
Sometimes I well, in the past, but pre-therapy, I'd cry because I was so like in private.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah, because it was just so it's so incredibly overwhelming that I don't know what else to do but to just, there has to be a release for me. So
sometimes I can't get there though. It's like I want to, but I'm not there yet.
Right. It depends on the gravity of it. Like if it's not too bad, but it's kind of like, it's more of like and see, I have a problem with because of my ADHD, I have like obsessive thought rumination. So I have to be really careful. So if it's not like bad where I'm like, I don't need to cry, there's the obsessive thought rumination. And I just, in those situations when I didn't know what to do, I just had to unfortunately let it pass through me, which would take so long, it could take days or weeks. But if it's when it was really, really heavy, like it was like, there was some like deep trauma that somebody shared with me that like maybe sometimes disturbing, I then I would in private have to go cry somewhere because it was just too much for me to handle.
You can do some pretty woo-woo stuff.
Well, now I'm just hungry.
It's more like a restaurant where you have the experience there.
Yes, for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Not to quickly change the subject any style, but to do it anyways. To do it anyways. The question: how do you bring more meaning into your life and other people around you? So, like, what I've tried to. So there's two things. It's really about like, again, FI, figuring out what it is that you love and that is like important to you, and then doing those things. Like a few months ago, I was really stuck because I felt like I was wandering aimlessly with like no purpose in life. I felt, I was having this existential nihilism, Kierkegaard style. So
I call that Wednesday.
Yeah. So it was just it just after a certain point, the monotony of life just becomes meaningless. So I was talking to my therapist about it, and she was like, figure out what you love to do and just do that, And so I think that's really important, finding meaning. So like figure out what it is that you like doing and just engage in that kind of hobby, whether it's like singing or reading or playing sports or whatever that is, and then also just like implementing some sort of structure in your life. I think that gives you a sense of purpose, right? It doesn't have to be like you have to plan out every minute of your day or, every day of the week or whatever, but just some sort of general structure, I think can help guide. INFPs can be extremely averse to structure, understandably, but I actually think it's really healthy to have some structure in your life, or else we can feel very like unmoored. So if at all possible, try to find some structure. And also too, like, I'm it's hard because I'm very comfortable being with myself, but like, and I don't tend to get in romantic relationships very often. But it's important to just like be with people that you really care about. Like, with your really close friends, or if you're close to family or whatever, like that actually is like so therapeutic and restorative spiritually. So like, just, sometimes like I don't feel like going out and hanging out with a friend or whatever. Like I'm tired and like I would rather do 50 million other things. But in almost all of those situations, whenever I do actually get out there and hang out with a really close friend that I have, it's always like a meaningful experience for me. Because we just, especially with people that you can just completely be yourself around, allows me to be silly or allows me to be deep or whatever the case is. And we can just both enjoy each other and share in the experience that we're having and relate to each other and build those bonds. And I think it's really important for FI, because FI, I think, really is a function that really wants to have a deep connection with people. So like, I think, even though we are introverted in the sense of like wanting to be in our heads all the time, but I think it's really important and healthy for us to reach out to others as well. So I think that's how you can bring more meaning into your life and to others around you. Because like when you have meaning in your life, you're happier, and then that happiness just kind of, radiates out towards other people, and then they can, be absorbed within that orbit of happiness.
Yeah, that's good. I gotta go, but I did want to just say one little thing about that. Making it bigger than yourself, whatever it is, making it great. It's really grandiose, thinking. But I tell myself, if I don't do this, if I don't, work on understanding this more, or making a video, or doing whatever it is, then maybe I'm not helping the one person that it could have helped. Maybe I'm actually hurting them because I didn't do the thing that I should have done, and I distracted myself doing something else. And just like making it just as big as you can, and bringing in intentionally the emotions of the towards and away from. Like, this is the thing that I want in my life. This is the world that I want to create, and I don't want that to happen. And then like turning the dials up on it, expanding it, finding the feeling within you and making it bigger, and using that with the intention of making it bigger than yourself and helping other people has been something that's surprisingly helped me a lot. Because I went for so long of like, no, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yep.
Don't worry about myself. I'm going to be the rogue in the back and just, sneak around, and I'm not going to care about anybody else. But eventually I just couldn't maintain that system. And I realized that it's not just me. You could make the world bigger. You don't know, your impact on one other person could help that person make a huge impact on everybody else. You don't know. So just it's kind of my thoughts on it.
That's beautifully said, and that's why I want to be a teacher.
Good
my wife.
Yeah. So thank you
Right.
so much, Matt, for coming on. Everyone,
Yeah.
check out
Take
Geek
care.
Psychology. It's an amazing site. Matt
Yes.
has a website called I Now Feel Positive. Go check that out if you're an INFP especially. And yeah, have a great day, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
You.
Bye.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, everybody. Nice meeting you. I don't know how to hang up.
I wanted to do a quick interjection. David Spencer in the chat, I saw that you said that you'd read that F is empathy and FI sympathy. That's not true.
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah.
FI FI and FE demonstrate empathy in different ways. And if you watch Michael Pierce's video on INFJs, he explains how INFJs experience how they do empathy, and then how INFPs use empathy. So INFJs, for example, they use FE, or they empathize by using FETI to sort of triangulate like how they would, how in a general sense somebody would feel in that situation, not specifically them. Whereas like FI will put themselves in that position to see how somebody feels. I don't know if you agree with that, Joyce, but that was what I read. But
I'll argue with you. The FETI is sympathy. We're etymology nerds, right? Sympathy means to feel with. Empathy means to feel into.
Right.
FI transports themselves into another perspective to feel into that perspective. FE feels with someone.
Right.
Sympathy gets a bad rep because the connotations are terrible.
Right.
Oh man, and now I know I'm FI down because I feel really bad for pulling out my TE like that. What a dick! I'm sorry. But I mean, if FE means is to feel with, that's like the translation of the word. I mean, I think FE would do that so well. You're feeling this emotion, I feel it with you. But empathy feels deeper. I think one of the problems is when empathy is touted as this virtue and sympathy is touted as a reason for Hallmark cards. Like sympathy is described as this watered down version of pretending to care.
Right.
But that's where the denotation gets conflated with the connotation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I don't argue, because then I just feel bad, and I feel like, Cristian, you're smarter than me, and you're more attractive than me.
Oh,
I shouldn't be.
No.
You do not want to read my dream journal, Cristian. It's all pictures.
No, you're good, and that's the beauty of having these kinds of conversations, is bringing different perspectives. So, no, there's your point is valid. Sorry, go ahead, Joyce.
No, don't say that. Argue with me.
I came here for an argument. Oh, I'm sorry. This is abuse.
My two cents is that like FE and FI do feel intensely, but in different scenarios. So for instance, FE feels more intensely in the moment when it's happening with the person, right? Like what Paul was saying. Whereas FI will feel more intensely sometimes after the moment when they've had time to think about it. Yeah.
That actually,
sometimes 20 years later.
That actually coincides with what happens to me often. A person could tell me that their dad has died if I know them. A person could tell me some good news or whatever. I could be going through something and I would feel like nothing in the moment. There would be no sympathy. There would be no empathy. But afterwards, like an hour or maybe a day, I would be a complete wreck.
But it's also your grief. You're not feeling their grief. You're feeling your own grief.
Yeah.
Right.
I've had that happen, and all of a sudden it hits me, and like it takes me by surprise.
Yeah. Because you don't see it coming, and like with me, it's like is there something wrong with me? Like, am I the bad person here because I'm not feeling anything in this moment? Yeah. But then when I go home or whatever, when I'm by myself, when I'm in my room ruminating and all of that, see what I did there?
Nice.
I will I'll reflect, and that's when I'll start feeling things, but it'll be outside of what is going on. Like the thing we've like has already happened. People have already gone through it. People have already sympathized, empathized, and whatever. But then when I'm by myself, that's when I go about that.
Can I echo that? In the premiere of what was the like the recorded chat before, you know, in the chat section, I was basically getting like verbally beaten the crap out of, and I mean, and I was fine by it. I found it kind of funny because it just proves to you the sadness of some lives. But it's good that these guys are here to check if I was good. But one of my friends was watching the panel, and you know, she was like really concerned for me. You know, again, I was fine. I kind of take wisdom from Milton Erickson, the psychiatrist, that says like, just leave the insults with the insulter, because if that's all they can think of, you know, feel bad for them. They could have thought of better uses of the time. But instead, she's a good friend. She's like my little sister. This girl, her name's Ramia, and she called me at like, you know, sometimes we have late night conversations. She called me at like 11:30 and said, "Hey, Paul, are you still up?" Yeah, of course. And she said, "Okay, I'm coming over. I'll be right there." Well, okay, what's going on? And he's thinking, what's happening? She's gonna bring me like some kind of wounded, and I'm like, "Here, take care of it." I was like, didn't know what was gonna happen, but she knows I love superheroes. She made me sit on the floor. She had it behind her back. She said, "Close your eyes," and she told me to. She said, "Okay." She took my hand, said, "Hold on to this. I'm gonna walk out of the room, and then you can open your eyes." She walked out. She said, "Open your eyes." I saw it, and I just started pouring. And then she was kind of peeking around. I said, "You walked away because you knew I wouldn't cry in front of you, didn't you?" She said, "Yeah, absolutely." Because like I've noticed like that FI it's a very personal experience, and I think sometimes FI can come off, like you said, Samuel, is just cold, maybe kind of aloof, like not really being attentive to it, but it's so intense. It's like there has to be practice managing it, holding it in. If we just express every emotion we feel, we have no friends. And yeah, so I've really gotten that over the years. Like I don't usually cry in front of people. I want to be strong for them. I want to help them with what they're going through, but leave me alone. And it affects me so much, whether it's something nice or whether it's something heavy. Like when it stays with you and you're alone and you're in that introverted space, it can get really intense.
Really quick, Han Jesse 31, nihilism, that comes from the Latin word nihil, which means nothing. So nihilism means nothingness, essentially. That's what it literally means. So there you go.
The philosophy of nothingness.
Yeah. So I've saved you a dictionary trip.
CliftonStrengths, everyone.
Also, I'll with this question right here, I would have to say it is very dangerous. Dangerous. Dangerous.
You'll be thinking about that.
You don't want to know.
It's very dangerous asking a perceiver, specifically intuitive perceivers, what goes on in their head during a day, because so much goes on in our head.
So you guys all have internal monologues, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Some people don't, apparently.
I know.
Yeah, I saw that. There's like just
like I have arguments with myself inside my head, internally monologuing against myself. I'm internally monologuing an argument against another person before I realize that too much time has passed, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Yep. Oh, and then so currently I do DoorDash. For people who don't know what that is, it's a food delivery service. So I have plenty of time by myself in the car just thinking. So it's just that's a really hard question to ask. It could be literally anything. And anything and everything.
like whatever interests that, like, think of it as a internal ball of chaotic thought constantly bouncing around in our head. Then whichever thought happens to come to the face of our surface is usually what has piqued our interest in that moment, or what we've seen and have thought of in that moment. It's not, okay, I'm going to think about this and I'm going, like, there are so many different things that happen that cause things to go around in our head that we can't answer this. This is a very difficult question. It's like,
it depends on how far you are down a rabbit hole too. Like if you're in one rabbit hole, it's you're bouncing around like a finite space kind of. But if you don't have a rabbit hole, then the world's your oyster. And it's like, well, what am I going to think about today? Well, everything.
Well, it's basically you're going Alice in Wonderland style. Like our minds are the world of Wonderland.
Yeah. Except they're often like filled with sadness.
Well, sometimes.
I saw a meme the other day that said it said Alice in Regular Land. she's upside down in the hole, and she says, "This is bullshit."
Oh my god,
that's good. Jersey, I will answer your second addendum to your question. So intuitives are said to be futuristic thinkers. How does that apply to me? Well, I imagine future things that have not future conversations that I've yet to happen with people, future selves, that I have of like what I could be or what I, whatever, so like that's how I imagine that.
I want to jump in on that real quick. And it's problematic. So not only am I future oriented, like I'm constantly in the future, but I have gotten so far like attached because of the Feeney connection to a particular version of a possible future self that I've had to go through the process of grief when those doors closed. So it's dangerous. Like I envy people a little bit that are in the present moment because I'm always 5 or 6 steps ahead in 5 or 6 different directions at once, spinning 17 plates. And it's like, what is that like to just be like, oh, I have one goal and I'm going to pursue that goal? No idea. No idea.
I would love to know what that's like.
Yeah. Spinning plates, you use the stick on it?
Like with this, like being a future thinker, I'm like, oh, well, I could do this thing to make money. I could also do this thing to make money. Like when I started, I think I overwhelmed my artist when we started MBTimes because I started getting visions of grandeur. And I started going harder. I started going faster. I started getting more excited. Meanwhile, she wanted to slow things down, take a step back, go through the details beyond. But like I'm like studio, animation, voiceovers, panels, bringing in other MBTI people, setting up MBTI convention, doing this, doing that, selling stuff. Like my mind just went kaboom with so many ideas, and she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then she went off to do her own thing, and there was a disconnect, and like that's how my life goes. It's like something happens, I start doing something, I start getting more ideas, and people get very frustrated because those ideas are in the future. They're not now. They're not things that are happening now, but I'm like, but we could do this in the future. We could figure out how to do this in the future. We could figure out how to do this in the future. And sometimes I don't even know how to do all those future things that I want to happen. I just have those ideas of future events that I want to happen without any idea as to
I never know how I'm going to get from here to...
Yeah.
Like sometimes, occasionally.
So, yeah, and I think it's kind of worse for INTPs in some ways because an INFP, I've realized, is more likely to take action than an INTP is. An INTP will constantly think of future events. From what I've learned of like living with my sister, who is an INTP. She's like, oh yeah, I'd like for this to happen, this to happen, this. Well, what are you going to do? But I was like, no, I don't know, but I'd like to happen. And it's like, oh, wouldn't it be kind of cool if this happened, or wouldn't this idea be kind of cool? But she doesn't do much about it, and only now has started to do like kind of some like stuff that she's wanted to do for like the last who knows how long. Whereas with me, it's like, okay, I've kind of figured this out, so let's try and jump into this and see what happens. But with no idea why. I have visions of grandeur. I have futuristic ideas. I have things. I have all these things happening and ideas and everything coming to me, but I struggle with how to make it happen.
I think there's. I'm not muted, right? Okay. Because we've had tech issues last time. NI is very different. I think is futuristic too, but and you know, like NE, I sometimes think that NI is a lot easier to use, because
Joyce is like,
yeah, right, and that's where I get the comparison, because we talk most nights and we talk about intuitive things, but NE, like this is along the lines of kind of AJ Drenth. He's discussed this. NE is divergent and NI is convergent. And those are usually forms of like intelligence. That's one theory of intelligence, that it's broken down to convergent and divergent. That's one way to eventually look at it. And you know, I'm happy with my job right now. I've been trying to explore other things like type coach, and that's been really, really satisfying. But it kind of has been my wheels thinking, you know, what to do with my life. And I know they're tied into another question before, but I think NE can make it more difficult because there's so many options. It's like one point in space-time could lead to several other points in space-time, and each of those points could lead to other space-times. It just grows and grows and grows. It's convergent. So, right. So while intuition is not necessarily about time, when it looks at time, it's futuristic, and NE will just expand. So when NE's trying to figure out what to do with their life, even right now, it's like paralyzing because there's so many different things you could do. And so there's so many different ways to interpret what you see, to interpret what you feel. NI is much more along the lines of, it's this.
Yeah.
Duh, it's this thing. Like, you know, I'll say like, oh, you know, Joyce, when you see this of this, do you think this is because of this function, or do you think it's this, if I'm going, is this modality, or is it this Enneagram type? And you're like, it's SI. Oh, okay. It's straightforward answer to things. That's how it comes up in like regular thought, but also just really look into the future when NE can see all these different paths to go, and it's a hard time choosing. From with NI is, I think, going to be more, correct me if I'm wrong, the sole NI user here, is, because I'm not one of them, I learned, there, and that was proof of it, Jesus, Paul, focus. But, and I can have an easier time. Not you, Paul Matson. Me, Paul Bruce. Sorry, because you know, this is a mess. But and I can be more focused. Now there can be issues with that singular focus, where it's like a force field. Like someone tries to go in and just bounces out, and it's only in this what's in this little NI box. But then NI sometimes won't narrow down as much. So with NI can see the future, like it's going from point A to point B. That's how it's going to go. Could be right, could be wrong. Usually wrong, usually correct. Damn you, NI users. But NE can just see all these different possibilities, and that allows us to see connections. Allows us to be sort of creative in exploring the future, but it also makes it challenging to pick one path.
Exactly. And so here's a little quick differentiator of NI and NE. So NI is focused, abstract, focused future. Okay. So, and then NE is open-ended future thought.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice succinct summary.
And that's very NI, right?
Yeah, exactly. That they don't mince words. So really quick, Drew, again, NE is not a decision-making function. It's a perceiving function. So NE is not factored in when I'm making a decision. It's either FI or TE. So
it's showing you what's available.
The ideas.
Right. So, because you was like, can you give an example of how any has shown itself in your decision making? Well, it really, I mean, I guess it's part of like it shows itself in like the list of options that are presentable. But as far as like making the decision, it's not based on any, since it's only perceiving. You have to, making the decision is a judging function job. So like I'll use my FITE.
The intuition presents the information upon which you form that decision.
Right, exactly.
And I will have a more focused, focused bag of information to make decisions on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everywhere.
Right.
But then it's going to be the judgment functions, and for us, typically, it's going to, first and foremost, I'd say, it's
FI.
going to be the FI. That we're going to look through the intuitive implications, and so maybe select which future we want to go down based on the set of values that we've constructed.
Mm-hmm.
So the FI is what is how you decide which future to go down.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I wonder if all introverted functions in some way deal with implications, and here's my argument. Yes. So, NI is normally the one who's told that they deal with implications, right? But NI normally deals with some sort of abstract implications or a type of conceptual implications, whereas I think FI kind of deals with moral implications. Ethical implications. Mm-hmm. And TI deals with logistical implications. So it's trying to understand where the inconsistencies are, and to do that, you have to understand where the implications are first.
Of it all,
And then the SI is comparing the implications to the past history of implications.
Be a word obsessive and say maybe TI is I guess logical and SI is logistical.
Right, because SI has to find the details as to what's needed at any given point, whereas TI is trying to figure out the logic. Is this logical? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this information correct? Is this information wrong?
Yep. How does this bit fit with this bit? Fit with this bit? This bit in this introverted structure I'm creating.
I would make 2 points. Number one is, I would also add that SI is ontological in the sense that, so for people who don't know what ontology is, it's trying to understand the what is for categorical purposes. So SI is also a function that tries to understand what is, so that way it can be categorized or cataloged. So so you do that with either with emotions, or you can do that with any experiences, but so it also serves that function. But I watched a video that said that FI is really good at seeing the causal implications of emotions or feelings or something like that. So there's a good understanding of cause and effect. So to kind of piggyback off what you're saying. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Joyce.
That explains why when we are going away and empathizing, Matt, I believe you were touching on this earlier. We go away and we'll think about stuff, about feelings that person maybe had, even if when they didn't express it or didn't know they had, because the FI state, when you're constructing that I guess system of understanding emotions and how they fit together, this is where I think FI gets misunderstood. It's not just about the self values, but it's values of a self. And so when you look at yourself, you can understand the values of other selves as well. You can understand intentions and emotions and how those constellations, you could say, of emotions and values interact within the person. Right, and you can see how values connect and how emotions connect. This person's feeling this way, they might do this because this feeling would lead to that feeling. Rather than an extrovert feeling might be they're feeling this.
Right, and so that's where I think that FI is similar to TI, but just more in the emotional realm, where we have an internal kind of cause effect sort of logical system about emotions and values and feelings, and so then we can apply that to other people. So when we hear maybe keywords that somebody's saying, or we kind of see something that looks similar to our own internal FI structure, then we can be this is similar, and they're probably feeling this way because of X, Y, Z, like, you know, following some sort of logical deduction type of thing. So yeah.
I actually wanted to add something to this. It's not, yes, INFPs can be future thinkers, but I think we fall into two categories depending on the state of our health. We're either stuck in the past or we're future thinkers.
Yes. Yes.
Due to the 5-psi loop that we can go through when we're unhealthy, we can like live in the past and regret the things that we've done and we're like, okay, and then we blame ourselves and like, well, why do we blame ourselves? And then we're like, oh, well, I'm blaming myself because of this, and it becomes a vicious cycle until knee comes in and slaps the both of them and gets you to get into a more healthier knee T really would be the one coming in.
But realize you can go through that cycle in a day. You can go through that cycle in an hour. Like I don't care for the health unhealth dichotomy, because I think that if you're unhealthy, then something's wrong with you. But how are you can't go to a doctor and be like, I'm in a feces loop and get help. That's not, I can't get a prescription, right? So I think it's important to this is kind of one of my pet peeves, but for me it's all about stress and rest, because it can be relational too, right? We don't really exist in vacuums. So my relationship with one person may put me in stress. My relationship with my job puts me in stress, right? But my relationship with you or with other people, you know, and I'm at rest. And I think that it's really, we want to be careful how we talk about that, because I think words do matter. So it's not just about looking at patterns, obviously may lead to, okay, this is an unhealthy pattern, or this has gone on for too long. But I think it's useful to have both.
Right.
Sorry.
I
was going to say, it can also be driven by like the feeling, and that feeling could be driven for like years, this could be plaguing you. And it may not just be due to stress. You could just like have felt something and then just constantly blamed yourself over and over and over again, and reminded yourself over and over and over again as to why you're a bad person, why you suck, why you're this, why you're that. And that is unhealthy behavior when you do that to yourself. So in a way it is unhealthy, but you are still stuck in the past.
Well, I think, and that, so you've got like unhealthy behaviors and then unhealthy patterns of behavior, you know, or you know, obviously, like if I'm stressed in one moment, you know, maybe that's a one-time thing. If I'm doing it on the regular,
I think there's like different categories of this FI-SI loop. So it can be unhealthy when it's what would, you know, psychologists call like obsessive thought rumination. So that could be the unhealthy FI-SI looping. It could be stress, but also like if you follow the OPS system, you could be a FI-SI person. That's just kind of part of your personality, which is what I think I am, because I NE, but like
SI first.
But I SI first, like the NE is usually in service of either the FI or the SI, and so
it's more Jungian in concept, where Jung had 8 function types, right? Introvert, you're intuitive, thinking, feeling, sensing, and you're introverted, extroverted. But then, I mean, the MBTI kind of insisted there's 16 types, that if the first is extrovert, second's extroverted, and vice versa. Kind of taking Jung's prescription as a clinician as descriptive. But I mean, as this expands, so when we say something like the INFP, we can essentially mean like, you know, FI at the top, TE at the bottom, and FI and NE kind of in a tug of war. Which one you choose, you pick. Like.
Right, exactly. So like so they're kind of sort of different instantiations of this FI-SI, you know. So for me, you know, I can do either one, but like my natural, like, or I can do the ones we've described, but my natural state is FI-SI. So yeah.
Yeah, and that helps give a little more, like that approach could potentially help those who don't associate with the INFP type. Like are that type. I mean, somewhat, yeah, because to see like, yeah, some will just rely more on that SI more comfortably, but then and they seem to be more introverted ones, even if they're loquacious, even if they can be verbose, they're still more. They're more comfortable with that SI world, and you said that NE serves the SI, but then what we typically associate with that type is the NE is first and foremost. But sometimes I think of it almost like a drawstring in a way, like right, you got the NE and the SI here, and over time as you mature, this is just like thoughts. You almost sort of like you kind of pick one over the other.
Right. Yeah.
But this is where we're not. This is where we differ from say in the ENFP, where the balance is with the observation functions, the perception functions, whereas the ENFP would do TE and FI much more balanced than we would.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and also too, like I have STJ parents, so I'm more comfortable. In the SI realm, and I just and I do a lot of things that are just like that feel comfortable. So I have a very hard time like being the NE spontaneous and kind of just doing things, spontaneously in the moment. So like I use NE to like look at different like I use NE for consumption, really, consuming a lot of different information. That I then store with my SI or catalog with my SI or, or just with FI and just kind of exploring different emotions. So yeah, I don't use it in a kind of spur of the moment, exploratory, that kind of thing. It's exploratory in an extroverted way, like kind of being in the outer world or being like punny. I can be like energetic or whatever, but definitely. But yeah, that's just kind of
when you're talking about why Apple, all the specific reasons why Apple is better than Android.
Yes. Then it pops up.
Literally, we were on the phone one day. That was such a nice conversation. And Christian said, I think Christian was like, "Do you have an Android or an iPhone?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, I'm gonna try and convince you." And I was like, "Go ahead." 20 minutes. Like, why Apple's better? And you know what? My phone breaks, I'm getting an iPhone. Like I might. I don't know. I'll let Samuel get a shot at that too. But he had made a good argument. It was really good.
I mean, well, see, here's the thing with Android phones, we have more updated technology, and we have more capabilities than a lot of iPhones are capable of doing. And there's this joke. There's this joke that a person made that, oh boy, the new iPhone phone, it's got no phone jack, it's got no this, it's just a brick. Congratulations, you get no uses out of this anymore.
Wait. Okay, you've got a phone that doesn't have a phone? Where do I sign up?
Wait. Android particularly Samsung made fun of Apple for moving the headphone jack. Now all Android phones or most Android phones do not have a headphone jack. So
has a headphone jack. So
because you have an old phone, probably.
I mean, I have the phone before the 20, and it has a headphone jack.
Well, now Samsung with the Galaxy S20s, they don't have headphone jacks, and that's what they're going to do from here on out. So. Yeah, anyways.
And yet there was a meme that showed a guy putting his iPods back onto a wire, and with the meme of Thanos of like, you couldn't live with your failure, so what has that done? It's led you back to me.
Oh, that's great. This is so much fun right now.
Yeah, this is we're getting off. I could go on, but
oh, I know.
I'm restraining myself.
That's restraining yourself?
Oh, I have more to say.
I was gonna say it, but I was like, nope.
Yeah, no, because I could say a lot more.
Oh no, I believe it. And you'd be right, probably.
Probably, yes.
So I'm a feeler. I don't want to. That's both great.
Sorry. Anyways,
these questions are killer, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I know.
They are. Yeah. Great job, audience.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any more? Oh yeah. So what are all of your INFP's favorite quotes here? If you, or puns or whatever. One.
Oh my god.
In high school, because I was a massive hopeless romantic, like massive hopeless romantic, and I still am to this day. I like kind of quotes with love, even though I've never experienced it. But anyways, one of my favorites back then that I wrote actually into my yearbook was, "It is better to have loved and lost than to have ever loved at all."
Yeah.
And to have never loved at all, that is. And that was one of my favorite quotes. And then I stole one from my INTP sister, which was, "Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies." I also like that quote because that's a fun quote. Because like with her, they would ask her questions like, "Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this?" And she's like, "Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies." And
That's a song.
It's part of, somebody quoted it, I can't remember who, but she took that quote off of that person, and that was her favorite quote that she put into her yearbook. And as life went on, I was like, I like that quote too. And then there was puns I just like in general. So
how did
I even created my own joke, which was, "Why does the Russian leader likes going to parties?"
Oh,
because he's putting on the Ritz.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So that guy Chiclet Monster just had the question before. I'm really curious. How did he get a picture of Matt so close up? Like, blows my mind.
You know,
Is Matt a cat?
obviously, I mean, you know, in my natural habitat, no less.
I'm sorry. I never mean these jokes, but it's
all good. It's all good. It's all
I
good.
love it. You guys have a lot to make fun of me for, so you guys can do whatever. Oh,
yeah.
I want to be ISTP.
ENFP.
ISTP.
ENFP. Oh, that's so hard. I would say something.
Or ENTJ. For
My favorite thing about the Enneagram is that as you read through the description of the types, even though I'm a 4, which is the worst one, there's none of the vices seem like an upgrade to me. All of them are like, no, I don't want that. Nope, I'm good. Like,
I'm type 1.
I've got my problems, but dude, anger. Like, I feel like as a when my extroverted feeling gets activated in its dominant position, it's ugly. Like, and actually I'm a 4-5-1, so I don't know how that plays in, but like anger in me, no, I don't need more of that. But I don't know if there's no one that I'd want to trade for. So like, yeah, I don't know. I could dig being an ENFP, but I don't know. Unmitigated knee. Like, I've watched it, and it can be awesome. It also seems a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Oh, ENFJ might also be fun. Be my shadow function type.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can.
That would be nice. That
Everyone likes them.
Oh, Christian.
The worst part is, like, we're supposed to be really good matches for them, but they're rarer than we are.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I mean, so are ENTJs, and we're supposed to be a good matchup with them too.
I don't believe that.
Even if you guys
I don't
disagree with
believe
it, I like it. That's it.
Okay, whoever this Drew guy is, he's a. No, I'm just kidding. No. That's a good
Or
question.
maybe weird.
Call it Drew.
Yeah, but actually, I would say ISTP, if they're ever trapped in like the wilderness or in a dark alley or something, they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that ability. Wouldn't be afraid to travel.
Put an ISTP or an ESTP together, and like they'll conquer the wilderness.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, there's
an INFJ in there to calm the animals.
Yeah. There's a very good reason why action heroes tend to be either an ESTP or an ISTP.
Oh my god, I want to talk.
It's like it's.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait.
I want to talk about this because this strikes a nerve.
Matson, get ready.
I took a job in government for 12 weeks, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. I needed it, but it was terrible. They were all about like, FE values of like, getting along with everyone, but obviously it's government. There's a lot of politics, and they expect you to like know what to do, what not to do. I have never felt in my entire life more like a square peg in a round hole, and like I was so far in FE, so unlike myself, so far disintegrated to 2, trying to like fit myself into something that just wasn't for me, and got in trouble over and over and over again. And this is in the last couple of years. This was last year. Well, I guess 2 years ago now. And there was no amount of, there was nothing that could have saved me, because it was just like,
Maybe an ESTP could.
I mean, maybe, but it was just like, oh, you're supposed to know that these people are withholding information from everyone, but we're withholding it from you, but we're not going to tell you. And it's just like it was the pinnacle of a cultural fit, and it was just absolutely insane. My values couldn't have aligned. I didn't know what they were. But I find that like as an INFP, like I can't be anybody else. I can't do things against my values.
Wait, what happened to the other question from Drew? Did you change it?
Yeah, it's kind of
change it.
Oh, okay, that's
I
fine.
also
We
want
don't
to know
have to
about
answer it.
Matson and the ISTP superheroes.
I'm going to ask something. I'm hoping
The
there are
what?
times where I've seen.
No, Matson, why are the STPs the best superheroes?
no. I didn't say why they're the best, and this is action heroes.
Action
I think there's something I actually read
Superman's
from.
kind of like an ENFJ, so
Yeah, but superheroes and action heroes aren't necessarily
Are
the
different.
same thing.
True.
Yeah,
Action
that's a whole different thing.
True. Me and Carter from Rush Hour,
it's-
they're the action heroes.
I'd say superhero movies are more of a subgenre of action
Yeah.
movies.
yeah.
No, it's just more, and they tend to be more, the everyman types, or at least if they're not the everyman types, they are like the elite special forces.
Yeah.
Or you do get interesting variations now, where they have kind of like a dual life, for example, like I think of Indiana Jones. I'm not saying he's necessarily an ISTP, but you could certainly make a solid argument for it, where he's also represented as a professorial type and dual life. And again, like there's nothing about them being the best, but because they tend to resonate, because the action genre, you want someone who responds in the moment and can think, like coolly and rationally about what's happening. You don't want someone to like
and is
start
able to
freaking
make
out
things
about their
look
feelings.
cool.
Yeah, exactly. And you got the P in there, the SP types, so they're very responsive, and they tend to make things
Get
up.
things done.
Yeah, I think it was the blog Zombies Ruin Everything, where
Yes, I love him. Taylor,
Right?
yeah, he's great.
He is one, like, I think like there's so many fantastic typology resources. His was consistently the most hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Like just sometimes the captions
God,
long, but
so funny.
just to simplify things, he actually talked about like, you get your STP action heroes. Like, does your action hero like never shut up, or are they like the cool stoic type? That's how you figure it out. And again, he's being very facetious there.
Oh yeah,
But-
he's hilarious. He said he hasn't put out a lot in a long time.
He hasn't. No, yeah, I know. Yeah, I miss him. And he doesn't just do MBTI stuff. Like he talks about all these other topics as well. But yeah,
I know.
but I feel like we should be jumping on to other questions now.
Yeah, INFP superheroes.
Oh,
I probably know
okay.
this.
I know some of these.
Yeah, INFP superheroes.
Yeah,
Well, you could argue some variations of Spider-Man are
Yeah,
INFP.
some variations.
Depending on the portrayal, probably Tobey
either
Maguire's
ISFP
version.
or INFP, depending on the portrayal of him.
Yes.
Wanda.
Wanda Maximoff, the
Great,
Scarlet
yep,
Witch.
yep.
INFP, absolutely.
WandaVision, can't wait.
Carry on the Flash.
Yes, and
but once again, he's kind of like the with Barry Allen. It's either INFP or ISFP. It jumps between the two, depending on the iteration of the story being written about him. Then, of course, you have if we're taking Jedis into this, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
obviously.
He's a very famous one.
Superhero a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Peter Parker was started in the 60s, goddammit.
You know, when Luke was whining about going to Tashi's station to pick up some power converters, I just assumed he was being metaphorical.
No, he's just one of us.
Yeah.
He's an interesting case because we were talking about I like that Valet made this question because we're talking about STP superheroes, and I'm thinking, I love superheroes, hence like the painting.
Yeah, you do.
But I don't know many INFP superheroes. I don't think they'd be very good at it. Actually reminds me though, I think if you really delve into the character, you delve into the character like in depth, not just on the surface, Captain America. And I think
FP though.
I think close to what Cristian was talking about the jumper concept, the FISI type. I think that's what Captain America would be.
What about villains?
Ooh, INFP villains. You could probably argue Kylo Ren.
Ren is argued as an
we have to.
We don't want to.
We don't have to.
INFP villains. We're
some people
angels.
would say
Hold on.
Okay.
Villains are heroes from their own point of view.
Ooh.
Yes. Moral relativism. Okay, I saw a blog, Heroes and Villains of, I think it was MBTI, but they were covering all the characters from Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
The Mad Hatter from Batman the Animated Series, INFP all the way. He is way too withdrawn and far too insular to be concerned with being an ENFP. Now, it's not to say there aren't variations, like say in the comics. I'm just saying on the animated series, he's like extremely obsessed with the works of Lewis Carroll and extremely unhealthily obsessed with a certain female coworker.
Oh, Kingpin! Yeah.
Kingpin from Daredevil.
Yeah.
Really? Like
Not
on Daredevil,
comics, but in Daredevil, the Netflix film.
He is incredibly sensitive. Yeah. Like, I know that sensitivity is an INFP thing, but
you look at Kingpin in the comics and everything else. He's an extrovert.
Yeah,
and he is like dominant, and he will
very
get
TJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
You look at him in the Netflix show Daredevil, like what Netflix did to him. He becomes an INFP. And you're like,
and that's interesting, and that's to what Matt says. That is a villain. I think the best case in where a villain believes they're the hero. Except later on he says there has to be a villain to the story. It's going to be me, but still in his eyes, he's trying to save Hell's Kitchen. He's trying to save New York, and that's what makes that show. I think honestly one of the best shows ever made because the dynamics, like you get into both the story of Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk, and their characters are both so developed. It's like they both wanted to save their city, but they came about it from different angles, in different ways. And it really sucks when you're watching a superhero show and you're like, oh man, the superhero, he's fighting for good, he's great. Yeah, I'm more like the villain. Right?
I like that complexity. I like that. I don't like it's black and white. It's boring. Like, I mean, yes, on the one hand, you can't, Batman and the Joker, if that, one of them goes, the other's gone. Like you don't need one without the other.
But here's an interesting question. The Raven from Teen Titans.
Ooh.
INFJ, I think.
Because she constantly struggles with maintaining her emotions and controlling her emotions so that her father doesn't take over everything. So she's in that constant state of controlling everything she feels. And even though certain things she can't allow, like she literally cannot allow herself to feel heavy emotions, because as soon as she does, her father takes over and she can't let that happen.
Yeah, it can be tricky, right? Because sometimes it's like, sometimes you can inflate someone's power with their, cognitive functions, or, someone's mental disorder with their functions.
Right.
But yeah, like I could totally see your point. And I think a lot of INFPs relate to Raven a lot. Like she is, I can't remember who her voice, I want to say Tara Strong.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But she's had so many people come up to her. I listened to her on a podcast. There's a podcast about Batman the Animated Series where Tara Strong was on, and she talked about how she had so many young women come up to her and say, "Listen, thank you so much for giving a voice to Raven, because I related so strongly to her." And, and of course, the only ones to go through that kind of like angst are INFPs.
What about Selena Kyle?
She's a
ISTP, I think.
ISTP, yes.
Depending on the variation, I guess.
I would say she's either an ISTP or an ESTP, depending on the story being written about her. But she's always been about doing her own thing, being very attractive in doing it, being very graceful, being very aware of what her surroundings are at all times. And the reason why she throws Batman off so many times is because her C is his last function, and he doesn't know how to deal with that.
See?
But she has fun with
the K.
Like Batman's an INTJ.
Yeah.
So, like, when you have him and Catwoman come together, Batman, he'll fight her, and then, sometimes he'll date her, and sometimes he'll almost marry her, and I'm super pissed that never happened.
Almost did it.
But the tension in Hush was so good.
Oh. Yes, that was really good.
Yeah.
Matt, where do you get the INFP from? First thing to Kyle.
I was just throwing it out there. Well, I think from a certain point of view, maybe, yes, she's doing her own thing, but is to throw another fictional character out, Robin Hood, right? So he's stealing from the rich and giving to the poor.
But
right?
This is more of like an ISFP thing that he does.
He takes
action. He doesn't question who he is as a character. He embraces what he's able to do, and then to do it for the good. He masters who he is, and then
I'm just talking about the moral flexibility.
Yeah,
I'm specifically talking about moral.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. So from that point of view, I think I would put Robin Hood and Selena Kyle in the same Venn diagram.
Type like the complex villains or hero characters.
I was just throwing out a character to see if she'd stick.
But see, here's the thing. If we were to put it into D&D terms of the charts.
I like you, Samuel.
This is so geeky right now. I love it.
Selena Kyle Catwoman would be more chaotic neutral, whereas Robin Hood would be more chaotic good. So they're both chaotic, but Selena Kyle is more chaotic neutral. Robin Hood is more chaotic
I'll agree with
good.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's why Catwoman works so well as either a hero or usually an anti-hero or a villain.
Yeah,
because
Magneto's a good one.
She has that moral flexibility.
Yeah. Magneto. Somebody suggested he was an INFJ. Because he sees a better world for people, and he knows how he wants to make it happen, and he believes that the way that the humans are, they're not doing things in the right way, and he wants to create the asylum for all mutants where all mutants can feel safe, and so he goes about it in a different way than Charles Xavier does with his school.
How do you type
him? Charles Xavier is, some people have typed him as an INTP. Because not everything
you can say.
Like with Xavier, not everything is good or bad, but things are right, and there's some things that are right, there are things that are wrong. He doesn't agree with Magneto's arguments of morality all the time. He looks at the logical consistencies or inconsistencies. He doesn't feel so much as he logics his way around what the superheroes are doing and figuring out how to help them in a logical manner, but he doesn't view things in such a almost black and white way that Magneto does, except Magneto also doesn't view things in a black and white way except when it comes to certain issues. So they're both very complicated characters.
Yes. You remind me with X-Men. I might argue that Nightcrawler.
Oh yes. INFP. Thank you.
Yes.
Not the INFP.
Nightcrawler constantly struggles with himself and who he is. He hates who his father is. He hates what he looks like. He constantly struggles with who he is as a person. He's constantly trying to figure that out. And even like as you go further into the series and further into the comics, he is constantly questioning, am I a good person?
I think Nightcrawler is much more, I would say, like soft and a little more fluffy than I am, perhaps. But I can relate to the character a lot because
he's one of my top 3 favorite X-Men.
Yeah. Like I know. I wonder if this is an INFP thing or if it's really a me problem thing. But growing up like as an identical twin and growing up as a pastor's kid, there were a lot of opportunities where I had attention on me, but not really as an individual. So I tried to be, as my friend Christian Ray has pointed out recently, which I really honestly appreciate, performative. No, and I hope I can say that because he was saying in a very kind way, I really like how you are, Paul. Like you can be that. But I've noticed that's why I try to be a little more, frankly, a little more like. A little less douchey today, I guess, because like I'm not trying to, I'm not thinking I got to be the funny one. I got to play this character, and I think Nightcrawler has that a lot. He doesn't really like himself, and he tries to play this Joker role, this jester role, make everyone laugh, make everyone happy. When you really get to know
him in the movies, I absolutely hate what they did to him in the movies.
Yeah, because when he was played by Alan Cumming, which is just an SI conversation, it's great.
Do you know he has a cosmetics line?
Really?
Alan Cumming? Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
he's got a body wash called Cumming all over.
Nice.
I check you not a real deal.
I love Alan Cumming, man. He's so filthy.
Wow.
Oh my god,
that's so good. It's all blue.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say about him playing as
Yes, I think
thank you, Joyce. I wanted to answer that question. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh, you want to answer this? Wait, the superhero? Oh, this one?
This one.
There's like so many good questions.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know everyone's geeking out, and I love it.
Somebody said they wanted to answer this one?
Well, not Samuel.
I mean, I and Christian both, and so does Matt. Like, there's a bunch of writers here. I don't know which writer wants to take it first.
I'll go because I do writing, but it's not like something that helps me. I guess it helps me get in touch with my FI. I do like academic research, so so it's not like creative, flowery, like typical. I guess what you would think INFPs would do. But it does speak to some value I have about like loving knowledge and truth and. But also to like the specific type of research that I do. So like I do cultural. I do research cultural history, and oftentimes that leads me into doing research on like small groups of people or even individuals. And so like so there the FI comes out there where like I'm reading about these people's lives either in like diary entries or in some sort of primary source documents if we can find any because I do research in colonial Latin America, but and so like when you really get to know these people like and you kind of get to like see some really intimate parts or sides to them, right? They talk about their daily experiences or what they're feeling. And so when you write about this kind of stuff, it's that's housed into my FI in some way because, history, or at least the way history is practiced now in academia, it's we kind of view history as a narrative, and so like a narrative that we kind of construct or like kind of reconstruct based on available data or primary source documents that we have. So like in some sense, even though I'm not like writing fiction and I'm writing about real people, but I am kind of acting as a sort of in some sense, an author or creative. That gets into interesting territory if you know about literary theory, but I can sort of kind of as a a writer of discursivity, if you will. I can create these narratives about these people, and so it does sort of have a I guess a creative aspect to it, because you're kind of creatively piecing together evidence and trying to reconstruct the historical past. So that's what I do with my writing, and that's how that taps into my FI, or that's how it helps me get in touch with my FI, because I get personal with different people's experiences in the historical past.
Wow. With me, when I write, it's more fantastical, it's more whimsical, it's more it appeals to my phi daydreaming side, the one that likes to dream, the one that likes to escape from things, the one that likes to create fantasy worlds. It's why I am a DM. It is why I wrote the MBTI webcomic. It is why I write other things. And then sometimes it's to go based off of a feeling with my poetry. Like if I'm feeling something super intensely, my phi goes into poetry mode. And so I write a poem, and so with me, it helps deal with the fantastical and whimsical, daydreamy, dreamy phi side of things, which is why I have a shirt that says "I'd rather be dreaming." And that's how I write as well. Even with my webcomic, I could have done many things with that, but we decided on a feel-good slice of life story. And when you read the comic, it's got humor and all that, but it's a feel-good life of slice story. And so, but that doesn't mean that all my things will be based on feel good. It will also be okay, well, what happens if I go and take a more darker path? Or what happens when I go and take a more Tolkien path? Or what happens when I take a more C.S. Lewis path? Or what happens when I take these other paths? And my phi tends to enjoy entertaining those thoughts, but my phi also desires everything to have a happy ending. Unlike George R.R. Martin, you know what you've done.
I think, piggybacking on what Cristian said, I think it's important to remember that a writer is one who writes.
Yeah.
Period. That's something that my college rhetoric professor drilled into us. I studied with him for 2 semesters. So my degree is in English literature and writing. Professionally, I am a technical writer, so I write gripping software instructions. real page turners, I promise you. I'm sorry that they're owned by my clients. I've always been a writer. It's been an extension of who I am. Basically, going back to what we were saying earlier, my teacher in 3rd grade, assigned us a journal, and ever since then, it's been my way of figuring out what I think, getting my ideas out of my head, and to some degree processing them, being able to look at them. And kind of it's kind of my process for figuring out what I'm thinking. I've dabbled in poetry. I've dabbled in fiction. I studied fiction at NYU for a couple of semesters in a non-credit program.
Cool.
I managed to write a fairy tale about beer that was passable. I don't know where I don't know where it is. It was the only thing
Matson's attentive.
I was like, okay, this is something I don't mind seeing the light of day, although I don't know where it is. I don't do a lot of creative work anymore. I think for a while I was trying to prove myself, and that I wanted to kind of write my way out of a crappy job in customer service and tech support for a long time. And now that I kind of more officially write for a living, I don't do as much writing, but I bake, I cook, I try and bring my intuition into that. I made, one of the simplest things in terms of formula that I know how to make is ice cream. It's really simple. It's dairy, egg yolks, and sugar.
Yep.
So it's a really simple palette to branch out, like once you understand how it works as a formula. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to make Bailey's cookies and cream. And it was awesome.
I'd eat that. I would eat
it was
heck
good.
out of that.
It was really good.
Considering that Bailey's is probably one of my favorite alcoholic drinks out there.
No. 5 stars, would do again. So I do try and exercise my creativity. I think it's important. Intuition, like my curiosity, if you get me curious about something, there's no stopping me. I will not rest until I've achieved whatever the hell it is. So in terms of identity, I think in terms of like figuring out what I think kind of helped incubate that a little bit, especially as I was growing up, like, oh, this is happening in the world and it's bullshit. This other thing is happening in the world and it's also bullshit. And it kind of... Yeah, I would like a refund.
Welcome to life, the universe, and everything.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think of writing more as like an extension of who I am, more than something I do. If that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 2 Pauls?
Yeah. Okay, that's right. That's how I'm supposed to go first. Age before beauty, right?
Before
yeah,
age.
see, I can give compliments too, Mr. Bruce.
Get off my lawn, babyface.
Writing. Well, yeah, similar to you, Matt. Like I have a background in technical writing as well, and I remember one of my first exercises was doing very pre-COVID, actually, very portentous, but was doing a like long write-up on creating a sourdough starter. So, yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know, right? And as a marketing coordinator, I write about all the projects we do, which is fine. It's kind of hard to make projects like building sound exciting after a while. But I also do like our social media and our intranet updates. And so whenever we have like little work events, I'll write about them, but then I'll usually put like a very sarcastic spin. And I love that. I'm quite sarcastic by nature. I'll often curb it just because I know it can be very easily misconstrued. But within a certain context, for example, when it's people know I'm writing about stuff that happened at work, yeah, I mean, you'd have to be extremely humorless not to, take that the wrong way. And then in my private life, I do a fair bit of creative writing. It's extremely self-contained. Like almost nobody sees this. In case it hasn't been already clear, like I'm a bit of a pervert. So
yeah.
We're
So
full on vanilla.
We all are. I think the quiet one.
I'm as shocked as you are.
I'm pretty sure I'm the most cool one here.
Yeah.
I think so, but I'm a close second, Sam.
Oh no, I think I'm pretty close.
Okay.
I don't mind
The
if
quiet
other
one
people-
you'll have to watch out for.
That'll be the next dimension on the MBTI.
I don't mind if people are that way.
We might get it, but
that way. What do you mean that way?
Because I don't want to say perverted because it's not like.
We just call
And
it
I say with complete self-deprecation.
Yeah, so like I don't want to use that word because it's
And
just
so
a
much
natural-
self-love.
A natural expression of sexuality, which I see no
Like
problem
I've
with.
seen
but-
some of your tweets, and I have not known how to react to them.
So like I think they're funny, but I'm just not that way.
Absolutely, and I fully understand, and that's the beautiful thing is like everyone can make space for each other, and so yes. So anyway, just putting this out there.
INFPs, we're great at that.
Oh yes,
I have
so
to
spacious.
shout out to.
Your kink is not my kink, but your kink is
not going
okay.
there.
Yeah.
Love that.
So anyway, just not to go into much detail, but yeah, it's like I do write erotica, not fanfic. I will make very clear. I don't have much patience for fanfic.
Why not both?
I've written fan fiction before.
Don't get me wrong. I have written fan fiction. It was fan fiction on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But that's only because I was a psych and criminology major in university. And one of the exercises I had to do was observe a courtroom proceeding, which I don't know if I don't know if many of you have been in court for whatever reason. It's not like the movies.
No.
Well,
there are no shocking revelations. There are no emotional speeches. There's no boom, boom, boom with the gavel.
That's all the dramatics. It's actually really
boring.
It's extraordinarily boring.
I went to law school. I graduated from law school, so I've seen court proceedings. I know, that's why people think, oh, ENTPs would be great as lawyers. No, it's not, because you're not arguing. At least in the United States, I think it's 90 plus cases settle out of court. You don't go to court, and it's not like this dramatic, like you're speaking, like you're an actor, like dramatically speaking to the jury, and it's not like that. It's actually the legal profession is an STJ's wet dream. I mean, it's all about rules and procedures and motions, and it's all super structured.
Details,
Yes, details, rules.
So
I mean, that's why, when I started interning for, when I was clerking for an attorney, I was like, what did I get myself into? I was like, I wanted to go into this profession. Oh my God, just the endless amount of ridiculous detail and procedural rules that you have to follow just to do anything. You're not doing any of the fun research or writing creative arguments. You're not doing, you're hardly doing any of that. You're not, trying to help the client and interacting with them and say oh yeah, we're going to help you and we're going to win your case. No, you rarely talk to clients. That's the majority of, I was telling this to the attorney that I was clerking for, and he was like, yeah, the majority of your job as an attorney is essentially busy work. It's just it's mostly procedural stuff. I rarely, I'm doing, talking to clients or doing anything sort of creative. It's just so it's very SITE oriented completely.
Yeah, I could definitely see the attraction to FI in terms of pursuing justice, for example, that noble good.
But the thing is, it's so not that way. At least in the United States, the justice so often does not prevail, and it's
what?
Honestly, I know,
when did this
right?
happen?
Reality.
Give me one example.
I don't know if you've read the news from earlier, but
why? What happened?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's just an assumption.
It's a joke that justice is prevails so rarely that
Yeah, and so it's actually a complete disappointment, and also it is so. I mean, the emails sometimes I would get from other attorneys are just such assholes. Demanding you do this or we're gonna take you to court type thing. I mean, that's not in my nature. I want to in my when I was
talk this over peacefully.
Yeah, no. When I was in business school, we had to do this thing where we gotten together into groups of people based on some sort of type that we are. It's not MBTI rated, but or related, but it's you're either the peacemaker or mediator, or you're the doer or whatever. And
Peacemaker's type 9, right?
Huh?
Peacemaker's type 9, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But I was the mediator peacemaker, that, and so that's my it's not a good fit. Being an attorney, you have to be adversarial. You have to zealously advocate for your client. Well, I'm okay with that, but there's a lot of gray area that attorneys try to toe the line with, and it just totally goes against my values.
Does not do that.
Yeah,
INFPs would drive us crazy.
Absolutely, and a lot of it's about just for the benefit of the firm. We take on a case because we think there'll be especially in civil cases, we think there'll be a high payout. So it's not about justice for the client. It's about what we get out of it type thing. And it's just kind of
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry, Christian, because when I did that offhand comment, I don't know if any of you have been in a courtroom, I completely forgot your background. Which, I know, yeah, how much you've studied and all the work you've done. Yeah, but no, you're absolutely.
I derailed
right.
the conversation.
No, it's fantastic because I like that we can talk about the legal system.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, my only point is I was so bored with the case I had to write about that I decided to create. Instead of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I created Buffy the Courtroom Observer, where she was the chosen one who had to go off. The characters were all the same. you know, and like Angel like used to be this evil corporate lawyer, and then he got his soul back, and now he does pro bono work, and
Wow.
it was this whole thing.
That's
you know,
incredible.
It was the only way I could write the fucking assignment. So
That's amazing.
That is incredible. Yes.
I'm wondering if
yeah.
if Chris was saying that like STJs just like the law is just made for STJs. I wonder if Paul, for you and your wife, like for your anniversary, like
Oh, God.
you could write legal procedure and she could write erotica, and then you guys switch
Ooh.
and see if it comes any steam or something. Right?
I don't think they switch.
Well, we already switched, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
I don't think you did.
I could not.
I gotta win the group, I don't get it.
Yes. Yeah, she straps on a backpack too.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. TMI.
Good night, everybody.
Oh my gosh, Paul.
I'm so red.
What's your deal with backpacks?
Lord.
We go hiking together. That's all I'm talking about. I don't know
Spirit.
I don't know where you went.
No, I'm just kidding. The power of Christ compels you. Just kidding. No, yeah, I'm just imagining you writing like a motion or something like that, and like, like just acting it out. Like,
Oh yeah.
like I want to assert this motion right now.
Oh, so hard. I would file for dismissal.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this panel is turning into an erotica.
Sidebar.
Yes.
Like, so, Paul, what do you write? Well, you see.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That's
Yes.
great.
Aren't you sorry you asked? Yeah. I'm so Brian. You're just trying to like, you know, ask decent questions of decent people, and then I talked.
Really love you, Paul.
That's so good.
Yeah.
We were all thinking that.
Now the
Paul
last
B, do you
Paul's
want to
here.
answer the question?
Yeah, from Mr. Winchell.
I
So
don't know what I'm doing with my hand right now. Okay.
It's hard.
Don't.
Like, so my writing will typically come in either reflective or creative writing. I do journal. Sometimes it's on and off, but I notice I feel better when I get a good habit. And ironically, though it's on paper, that's a way for me, I find, to use my NENTE to understand things I'm trying to figure out. You know, like my FI might be hurt by something, might be bothered by something, but then that's where I get in that that NENTE mode where I'm kind of writing about the problem and trying to like solve it and trying to piece it together, trying to work through some kind of problem. Usually it's still a feeler problem, but I'm not using my feeling to do it per se. But I also love creative writing. Usually that's going to be like music or poetry. I often feel more comfortable writing like crude music, Lonely Island style. Like I started writing songs for people in my family, like for my mom's birthday. You know, I was playing the acoustic guitar and I was singing, and, you know, the first verse ends with like, such a beautiful smile and a heart made of pure gold. Today your heart turned 57, holy F, you're old. And then it's like it sounds like a ballad, but it's really just like an insult. I mean, she was peeing herself. She loved it. I enjoy that. I like the playfulness, sort of like Bo Burnham, but not as good.
Yeah.
She
Just as
you
good.
know,
It's fantastic.
It's fun. Like the thing that I wrote for that INF Paul panel, that was like somebody just kind of put together in like a couple hours, because Joyce said, "Oh, Paul, you said you might write a poem in the panel." It's like, yeah, we didn't talk about it. She said you have till 3, and so we put that together. But I like the playfulness. Maybe because if someone's laughing at me, it was on purpose. But I've also really gotten into poetry, and I was going to mention my INFJ friend, but at this point, everyone knows it's going to be Joyce. It's actually been kind of very, very encouraging about it. Even my more serious, my kind of more darker poetry, that's been really helpful. Like with Brian's question about how does it get to know who you are. Usually I'll put on a piece of music, instrumental music, and see what I feel, see what kind of feelings it conjures up, and I'll write something based on that. Sometimes I'll use the title of the song as the title of the poem, and then just sort of write what comes to mind. And they're pretty like intense emotions. But one thing I've also seen is a lot of kinesthetic imagery in what I'm writing. That's helped me understand how I experience my FI a lot. Like, you know, I'm type 1. Some, I don't want to name any Christians, would disagree with that, but like or whatever it is, or he has other like honestly justifiable explanations from my Enneagram side, but somehow revolves around kind of pent up anger. And lately, especially since I really found out I was FI Dom, I just, all these emotions kind of came up like, oh, there they are, and I'm going to process them. It's because I was pushing them down for so long. So now when I write my poetry, there's been different emotional themes. One that's come up a lot is emotional suppression and battling your own emotions. And I notice I have a lot of kinesthetic imagery, like to kind of convey the physical intensity of the emotion. So that's one way that's helped me understand more about myself. Like, I kind of know my moral values, and when I'm trying to figure out problems associated with moral values, that's where I'll journal, and that's where the NE and TE kind of come to solve that moral problem. I also really love writing philosophy when I was in undergrad. Honestly, some of the most fun in my life, just writing ethics papers, which is, I'll just say it, pathetic. INF pathetic. But no, the poetry has been helpful to see, like when I write the kinesthetic imagery, and also how I'm attentive to things like meter, to rhythm. I don't necessarily keep a strict like Shakespearean type rhythm, but I hear like the impact of the sounds that they make, because of my musical background. So like I feel the beat, I feel the rhythm, I feel almost like the timbre and pitch of the words that I write. So yeah, that's been a nice way to understand more, not just what my feelings are, but how I experience those feelings. Yeah, so I know that's something I'm gonna definitely keep doing a lot more of. That's been really therapeutic.
Yeah, Paul's poems are really, really good. Like some of the best high caliber I've ever read. And he's gonna be making it into a book one day. Yeah, so cough, cough.
Or else.
Yeah. I think I might start posting them, and Joyce keeps saying, "Oh, I'm gonna put him in a book." No, she's really sweet, and like I almost shy away from when she gives me compliments like that, but because she's not a feeling dumb, she will tell me, like, once I gave her a poem, she's like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's not your best, but it's still pretty good. So then that way, when she says something kind about one of my poems, I can believe her, right? Which feels really good. So yeah, I'm hoping to, like, thinking about trying to find like what to do with our lives. There's a book called The One Thing that I've been reading. Gary Keller and Jay Gaspar, I think the authors are. It's about like trying to kind of narrow your focus a little bit, what you want to do with your life. And like career-wise, like I'm kind of okay right now. I do want to move up, but I thought the one thing I really want to do right now is give myself joy, is do something that actually I like to do. That when I'm done with it, I feel happier, I feel better, I feel more myself. And yeah, writing poetry has been one of those things. I really enjoyed it. It's given me realization. It's given me peace.
Yeah.
Answer.
Yeah.
And to answer this question, it's often like stated in the MBTI world that yes, INFPs and FI users are often attracted to underdog heroes and characters in general, mostly because they want them to fulfill their potential. They want them to come out on the top at the end. They feel for their situation. Now, sometimes we may be rooting for the person who isn't the underdog, but that's under different circumstances, and it all depends on story. But if the story is written well enough, then yes, we will be cheering on for the underdog to overtake the villain or overtake the antagonist or overtake the situation they may be thrown in, because some parts of us connect with that, and other parts is hoping for them to be like, yes, you can do this, you can utilize your potential, you can find who you are, you can be the hero you were always meant to be. And that it kind of, at least for me, it strives in the whole thing that like I too can achieve my own potential as well.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. This is going to be the last question, by the way, guys. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to quickly answer a couple that I read through, just very briefly. So,
I would like to very quickly hijack this.
It was just like, this is going to be the last question. Cristian's like, we'll see about
that. Somebody asked, like, what's my relationship with comfort, or what's our relationship with comfort? And
you're dating.
I mean, with yes, absolutely, we're in a very serious relationship. So, especially because I'm FI/SI, like most things I do, it's out of comfort. Like I will do things if it feels like, if there's a FI emotional attachment to it. So like I love going to the beach because I have wonderful memories there and it makes me feel good. I love going to the library and just hanging out there because it feels like a safe, comfortable space for me, and it was for me through elementary school for various reasons. So like I will do things that feel safe and comfortable. So like that's basically now to answer this other question, the one currently here. So like I agree with everything Sam said. I'm very much attracted to the underdog, and that's why like when I see somebody, like normally like if it's in a group setting, like it's hard for me to like kind of stand up in the moment for somebody, like if somebody's getting picked on or whatever. But what I will do is I will go privately to somebody afterwards and help them out or comfort them or whatever it is that they need. But there are times though, if it's like if it's in a very small, more intimate setting, and I see somebody getting like if it's me and two other friends, let's say, and friend one is beating up on friend two, just really like railing into them, I will stand up for friend two and just, like my TE will come out, and I will stand up for them and tell friend one to knock it off and to back off. So because again, I feel for the underdog, like I don't like to see people, especially if I feel it's unjustified or unfair, to kind of be like berated or attacked or persecuted or whatever, because I know the feeling personally. So like, so I have a huge soft spot for the underdog. I'm very attracted to the underdog in any sort of medium, whether it's film, television, novels, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all misfits to some degree.
Absolutely.
We don't fit most of the male stereotypes.
Yep.
And it really kind of presents challenges. So I think that the underdog really resonates, because who wants to see somebody win who's got the deck stacked in their favor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Underdog heroes. I mean, and I've mentioned this on, I think, the last panel I was on, where I was really attracted to underdog animals. So animals that are not generally speaking well loved. And of course, this is like my brand now, where I have to talk about insects and arachnids on every one of these damn things. That's just
entomology.
But it also extended to things like like bats and rats. Anyway, so that's just like ever since I was a little kid, like it was like, oh, and it wasn't like I was trying to like prove a point or crusade, but it's like, hey, these things have value. We should care about them and root for them. But underdog heroes, the thing I keep coming back to is I'm often attracted to characters who they aren't necessarily the hero. In terms of like the main character, and definitely the underdog heroes where it's like, oh, like the Rocky Balboa or the Daniel LaRusso types, like against all odds kind of deal, because we're meant to root for those characters. Like the movie is about these people. But I love the characters who really struggle, and often because they always get in their own way. Like one of the first examples I thought of was Thomas. Like if anyone does watch Downton Abbey, is Thomas Barrow, who is a very hard character to like. You're sympathetic early on because you find out this is a gay character in early 20th century England, and it was a hard time to be that. It was like illegal, for example. So that gives you some glimmer of sympathy, but he is such a dick to almost every other character. And it's like, God damn it, you're being such an asshole. But you sense that glimmer of decency in him, and it comes out every now and then where he shows like little hints of caring for other people outside of himself, or when he shows quiet moments where he's like reflecting on what he's doing with his life. And this is just an example. And they're not always, and I love that they're not always successful. I love that that's, as much as you want, these people to always come out on top, and it's not to say they never will, but sometimes they don't. And I love that it's so relatable.
Or if you get like a really compelling tragedy like Gladiator.
Absolutely,
that was sad.
Yeah.
That was sad. Or what's the one? Braveheart.
Yeah.
Do you see all these SI references throughout the panel?
Definitely.
Obscure movie references.
Another one I just thought of, which is weird because such a reviled character overall, is Pete Campbell on Mad Men. Because he is so intensely unhappy.
Yeah.
And I hate that for him. He is a very hard character to like.
He is.
But
so
I can, there's so much pain and rage in him, and it kills me because even watching it's like, oh my God, dude, you're such a dick. Like knock it off. But at the same time,
guys, and then there's guys.
Yeah, like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, you're killing me. Yeah. So they're not these characters, they're not necessarily heroes, but for one reason or another, if it's a person you care about, in a way that makes them a hero on some level.
Yeah, and to twist the question a little bit, so Paul talked about insects and about how you really care about insects. That reminds me of Paul B, which is the other Paul. You guys both have a relationship with insects. So Paul has a consideration towards like his compassion towards things extends down to the level of insects. And I find that maybe it's because they're kind of like the underdog because no one really
although
respects
spiders technically aren't insects, as many people will.
Insects spiders are arachnids. I did say arachnids early on.
Yeah.
TE correcting.
Actually.
My
For your information.
Well, actuallying people is my favorite pastime.
Yeah.
I wonder if the INFP empathizes with the underdog because their empathy allows them to, whereas some others might find it harder to. That's one theory, probably wrong. I think the other might be that we can because we feel that way all the time.
Well, I think we're supposed to, because the idea, the entire point of storytelling forever is it allows us to experience XYZ scenario without having to live through it ourselves.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we get to feel like what it's like to be a gladiator in ancient Rome without having to be one.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's something about
we do so well.
We're
in the
wired for like 30 seconds. We would make great lion food.
Lion, not fight the lion.
You're gonna be its dinner.
Be the lion.
We're wired that way for whatever reason. So I think on some level we're all attracted to the underdog because I think it's easiest, and I think the story is also engineered that way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a philosopher, the philosopher Thomas Nagel. He had an essay entitled "What It's Like to Be a Bat," and the I guess thesis of that essay was you can't know what it's like to be a bat. You can't know what it's like to have any other being's experience because because you are not them.
Right.
But I read that, I'm like, yeah, right, easy. I'm not going to be a bad. I think like that idea of I think we were talking about the INFP empathy. It's like I'm not sure to I guess visualize it as our mind going inside their perspective or our perspective synchronizing with theirs. Sometimes I think of it like Rogue from the X-Men, right? When she'll touch a character, she'll like take on their genetic code in a way that manifests their abilities,
like their memories, their abilities,
right?
Like
so it's
not
like Xavier where you're getting like just their mental content at the time. You're more slowly, laboriously adopting their structure of being. So when Joyce mentioned spiders, like I used to squish spiders all the time, like get out of my house, but something clicked in me like, oh wait, that spider probably has a family of some sort. I don't know what the family is. I don't know what their bonds are like, but like I could kind of step into that perspective and think, oh, well maybe if I were in that spider position, I would not want to be squished in a tissue. So maybe I will not squish that spider in a tissue, right? And it's not like you're in a forest, you kill a bear out of self-defense because otherwise you're their dinner. I think so. It happens with animals a lot too. I think in stories that underdog character or like the outcast character, the character who no one really appreciates, no one values.
The outcast,
Because like those examples talk about the heroes, right? The underdog, like not really. They have a very handsome man portraying them in movies, and they are like they're made to be this alpha that we're cheering for, rather than the person who has cards stacked against them already.
Like Quasimodo.
I was just gonna say that he's an
Quasimodo,
INFP.
Yeah.
Damn it, Sam! You beat me to it. Yes, Quasimodo. I mean, like
He's an outcast, an underdog. He's got everything stacked against him,
and he's totally an INFP. And
he is.
Like, and just the songs, all of his songs, like I connect with on a deep, personal level. Heaven's Light, especially.
Wow, that is beautiful.
Now, sadly, the book is a lot more darker than.
It's very dark. Very dark.
Awesome.
Wait, you mean Disney whitewashed?
No,
fairy tale? You
But
don't.
No.
interesting
The
is
singing
watered it
gargoyles,
down.
that's still part of it.
Right.
Okay.
But they watered it down because actually the Hunchback is still a pretty dark movie, like especially Hellfire.
He's my number one villain song. Hellfire is fantastic.
My number one villain song is "Be Prepared." Actually,
That's a good one.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a great way to end off the panel with these all these amazing.
She's been trying
songs
for like
INFP.
10
I
minutes.
know.
this needs to
Please
end.
stop.
Guys, shut up.
I need to create an INFJ shirt.
Get your own shadow.
That has INFJ on it, and then says "Send help."
Right.
Yeah, I need a send help t-shirt. But I feel like this panel is a really good demonstration of extroverted intuition. Left to its own devices, it's very verbose, and one idea always leads to another idea that leads to 7 other ideas. And so if you're at a loss with topic selection, and they're all over. Yeah, and if I leave them alone, they're gonna go on forever until.
Yeah, I mean,
and then if you add in an ENFP or an ENTP into the mix,
no. It's done.
Game over, man.
I was gonna
question of the ENFP panel. I just want to say, we got the more questions.
I would love to be part of an ENFP panel.
I was trading weird images from my phone with Nate Rasa, and like I wasn't even in league. I was not even in league. Like there was there's some random stuff on my phone, but forget it.
No, they're any DOMs are unmatched in their randomness. I can't. Yeah, and if we had stayed
the random.
If we had stayed a little longer, I would have actually sang
gotta go.
Heaven's Light.
I was like, oh, look at the time.
Well, look at the time, and I grabbed
goodness, look at my wrist.
So, Christian, that would make a great outro for one of the INFP panels in the future.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Dude, I didn't say it before, but I loved hearing you sing on.
It wasn't me, but it was the choir.
Yeah. But you're there.
In an outro song.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it, Sam? I'm curious.
Which one?
The outro song that from my choir.
Like last time in the panel?
Mm.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was amazing.
Yay.
I liked it.
It was fantastic, Christian.
Yeah.
Like 10
That's
out
why
of
I
10.
was like. That's why I made the comment. You should do an intro song and an outro song.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yes.
There. Yes. Okay, agreed.
Yeah. So thank you, Christian, for your lovely harmonic voice.
Yay, the FE compliments train.
Ready, guys?
It's time.
Yeah.
Here we
So
go.
your ability to sing in the outro songs, it just makes me so happy. Your voice really is so soothing and so lovely and so needed, and it's like medicine to the soul. So thank you, Christian, for being medicine to the soul, and thank you, INFPs, for generally being medicine to the soul as well.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, and so thank you for bringing your etymology to light. You're always great with that, Christian. You're always spot on with that. When you explain nihilism, the philosophy of nothing, I was like,
That was beautiful.
Yeah, you're really
Merci
showing
beaucoup.
your PhD side. You're really intellectual in it. It just always shows. Yeah. Yeah, and Samuel, you have a stellar comic. Like an absolutely amazing comic, MBTI Times, and like the art's fantastic, the writing's fantastic. It like really great.
Check it out, people.
Material. Check him out. Check him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate your one-liners. So like during the quote part, you just gave an amazing one. So thank you for that. Yeah, and thank you, Matson, for bringing the comedy and the humor.
Yes.
Yes.
This used to be such a nice panel.
You offered just really interesting jokes with Paul. Like it's clear you guys have something between each other.
It's adorable.
Yeah. I know. It's like he's like right there. There we go. This is my SC. I don't know what I'm doing here.
There you go.
I can't.
Fantastic.
I'm in a box. Yeah.
Yeah. I always need to.
And now some mime. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the brilliant miming. Yeah, I always have to probe you to speak, but whenever you do speak, it's gold. And so thank you.
I know.
You know, I just want to be pro, Joyce.
Yeah, you.
I see what you did there.
I'm not going to apologize. You put it right out there. I'm sorry.
Wait. Why is your out not oat? Like I'm not Canadian like.
We don't say oat in the boat. We don't say
oat in a boot. You know.
Some of you
Not
do.
oot. I've heard
Some
oat,
of you
but
do.
you know, I've heard actual Canadians say oat.
My family's from Nova Scotia, and they do that. They do speak like you'd expect.
It's a maritime.
Like the
Very maritime Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, I'm from New Zealand, so we don't even say that. So
Right.
Yeah, you only sound like an.
I know what the hell you're on about, mate.
An offshoot Australian.
Careful. That's a hate crime where I'm from.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of the hatred between Australia and New Zealand. Or
I know. Well, there's that. It's very Canada, US kind of stuff.
You guys like are the hat to our head. Sorry.
When Samuel, when you talked about your travel experiences, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
I met some New Zealanders.
Your first problem was you went to Australia. I say this with love. Australia is a beautiful country. Lovely people.
You guys have the leg up because you guys have Hobbiton and Weta Workshop and Loader in New Zealand. So
yeah, I could have gone and seen the Lord of the Rings set if I'd gone to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our third female prime minister. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
Yeah. Represent.
Yeah. And this is another sign of extroverted intuition.
Yeah, sorry.
Like digressions and interjections. and the bouncing of ideas. So
Never
amazing
end.
conversation. Yes. And so thank you, Paul B, for talking about your poems. They are stellar and they deserve to be put into a book and put into the Hall of Fame of poem books. And I really need you to do that one day, and I will SE get you to do it. But
Thank you.
Yeah,
Amazing.
you're very smart with your typology material, and I really love how you describe FI. There's a lot of surface descriptions out there. So when you go more in depth with it, that it's not just like what people characterize it as. You give it a 3-dimension. You make it 3-dimensional. So thank you for that. And yeah, and you're really cool, especially when you're not performing. Yeah, and you don't have to do that because.
Hey guys, you want to see my dirty laundry? Watch this video. I'm just trying to be as cool as Matt, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like, that's what makes you cool. Is those eyes.
Collar tug.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Paul, for always reminding me to be myself. Like whenever we talk, you remind me when I'm not being myself, and you always tell me that I should. And so I'm just doing the favor back to you. So I'm like, yeah, Paul.
I'm actually getting emotional right now. I'm good.
Cry
again.
Cry.
Yeah.
The way you bring us all together, it's always so nice. Today was like an especially beautiful time in video, and the questions in the chat. Oh my gosh! Like
I couldn't believe it. Like
thank
you, point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to give everyone. I want to give everyone a hug.
Even though we didn't answer all the questions that popped on screen and all of that,
I know
we got distracted by other things.
We tried.
So unlike us.
Distracted by other things.
Us distracted?
Like us.
Never.
Shiny new object, shiny new idea.
What?
Never.
Where?
Yeah. And so thank you, Matt. Thank you for the perspectives that you give. There's a comment that you said in one of the past panels that's gonna haunt me for life, and you said that you said that it's you don't have friends, you just have
family.
And I was like, that was the most beautiful comment, and I'm gonna like remember that forever, because there's some larger NI theme I see it fitting into, and so I'm going to figure out and mull over it in my own time to post process it. But when you said that made me believe that people could care about each other more than just surface relationships. It made me believe that you can really develop a family outside of family. And
chosen
for someone
family.
Oh, it's all about the chosen family. And
yes,
there are stories of people who have only met online going to not each other's reciprocally, but funerals. Like I only know this person online, and like, but this connection is real. Like we're getting through this nonsense together.
Absolutely.
I can't even begin to tell you. Like these couple of panels have been really good, especially just connecting with people who see the world the way I do. Has been phenomenal. It's like, oh hey, I'm not one of like one INFP in a sea of STJs. Like it's validating.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm
creating space for this.
Yes, and I legit like I want to, when things get less crazy with the pandemic, I really legit want to like save up money and go to Canada and like hang out with all of you Canadians.
Downtown Canada.
Go up the West Coast, take a car ride up.
Yeah, see, like you're on the West Coast, so it's easy for me since I'm in LA. So
PST represent.
And Matt, I might be going to grad school in New York, so I don't know. I might at NYU or Columbia if I get in.
Hunt him down.
Yeah, so I just would love to meet you guys in person, honestly.
Oh,
there honestly needs to be an MBTI convention.
I'd share a beer.
Oh yeah. Yearly.
There was, well, I went to one 2 years ago now. Megan Lavoda put one on, and so I met some people on Twitter, MBTI Twitter in real life. So it was so awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah.
In the next coming years, Megan, and I and a few other people in the typology space have been planning to create an MBTI convention. Right now, there are conventions, but it's for like
Practitioners.
Practitioners are like people who have like a lot of money. So we're trying we want to create a convention.
Like we want to like turn it into like an anime convention or a Comic Con, like where there's going to be merch, where there's going to be
it's like fan.
Where there's going to be cosplay.
Yeah, we dress up as your favorite MBTI person.
See,
your favorite
thing. If my comic becomes popular and I recreate those MBTI superheroes and everything, then they can just pick one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can dress up like cute people, ironically.
Yes.
True. Yeah, Paul, you should wear my shirt. The off-shoulder shirt.
Oh yeah, come on. I can make it work. Yeah.
Yes.
Either that or I dress up as one of Heidi Prieb's cognitive functions. Like probably NE, but also the time SE wore a wedding dress. Or SI. I'm sorry, not SE.
Yes. And so that's fantastic. And thank you everyone for watching. Y'all are so patient to be through like a 3.5 hour video. And I just love all the participation y'all brought in the live chat. And thank you everyone on the panel for being like a family away from family. Like when Matt talked about how friends are really just extended family, like the people on my Types Talks video, like they become family to me. Like so it's like when I say goodbye to you at the end of the videos, it's like saying goodbye to family at the end of a holiday retreat or something.
Warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
Get out, we're tired of you.
That's all to say you all matter to me. And so I'm learning to show my FI because you all are FI, so it's promoting growth. So
yay. We're rubbing off.
So thank you everyone for watching. And Paul has life coaching services, so check that out.
Yes.
And